Well, happy Sunday morning, everybody. Welcome to the program. I'm Scotty Roberts. Program such as it is, this is our informal day of the week. It's kind of like the captain's cabin dragged into Sundays. So, welcome to the program, and hope you're having a good Sunday morning so far. Mine's okay so far. I'm awake. I'm dressed. I'm showered. I am coffeeed. Just taking my first sip. How about join me in that? Here we go. There it is. It's pretty good today. And I had one of those nights where last night, all day yesterday, we spent doing Rainey set up her tumbler booth outdoors at the grand opening of the bridge here in Somerset, Wisconsin. They'd had the bridge under construction all summer long, and they reopened it for school about 2 months ago. But they had the grand reopening, the ribbon cutting yesterday, and a bunch of events up all over the place. Little tiny Somerset, Wisconsin. And so we were down there with Rainey's booth, and they were selling Scout popcorn next to us. And by the way, if you'd like to help out Ellery, help out. That's such a bad way to put it. It sounds like we're begging. Ellery sells Scout popcorn so she can go to camp. And it helps with the costs of all that, which have gotten astronomical over the years. But Scout popcorn, you can go over to Rainey's Facebook page or Instagram or mine, and you can find the link if you scroll down there. I'll put it in here this morning. Many of you have already gone over and bought popcorn. She's just a little bit away from her goal. So there's a little ad for my daughter. And so go help out Ellery with her camp needs and get some good popcorn in exchange. Is it expensive? Yeah. $20 for a bag of popcorn. That's a lot of money for a bag of popcorn, but it's pretty densely packed, I've noticed. And what you're really doing is you're giving to the Scouts, you're donating to Scouts, and you're getting a bag of popcorn in exchange. And there's all different kinds of popcorns over there. I'll go find you the link, and I'll post it in here. But that's what we did all day yesterday. We went out to that event and had the popcorn selling right next to us. And then we had the Rainey's booth. And so we stood out there all day. Here's the link, by the way. This is for Ellery and popcorn I'll put. And they ship it. So that's cool. So there you go. And I want to thank Audrey and Leslie for getting their popcorn in over the last couple of days. Thank you very much. And there you go. So got home yesterday afternoon, about 4:00-ish. We got Subway sandwiches, and I had my sandwich. And you're not supposed to sleep right after you eat something, but I was tired. My legs are tired from standing up all day on concrete. So I laid down, and I woke up at like 7:30, 8:00 last night. And then I went to bed again around 9:00. So 9, 10:00, and I slept almost all night, up and down, up and down, up and down. But so I got a healthy dose of sleep. I must have needed it. So that's what I did yesterday and last night. How was your morning? Getting up this morning, getting ready, getting your coffee, getting your face on, all that, getting your hair, combed, such as what's there. And so I flip on the news, and sometimes the TV's going all night, and it's really low, and depends on what shows we were watching last night when we went to bed. And middle of the night, ghost shows on, and it's not loud and it's not too obtrusive, but it's really soft. And sometimes there's music, and it goes from one show to the next to the next. I usually put something like YouTube on, and I watch different shows, and then all of a sudden you're watching a show about Constantinople, and then you wake up later, you're watching a show about ghost hunting. Then you wake up a little later, you're watching a show about what Rome would have looked like in the 500s AD, and stuff like that. And finally, when you get up enough energy to change the channel, you either turn it off, which I did finally, or I put it to music, soft sleep type of music, and that goes. But there you go. That was my night last night. So anyway, Sandra says, me too. So I think she's talking about the same thing, does the same thing. Rainey seems well rested, but I don't know if we'll see her yet today or not. We keep calling this Sunday morning with Scotty and Rainey. We haven't seen Rainey in weeks. So she's always got so much going on. So, and when she doesn't have anything going on, she's wiped out. And so she's not over in the bedroom, though. She's upstairs. So something's going on. And I don't know if she's got somewhere to go today or not, but she might come in and say good morning this morning. So I flipped on the news this morning when I came down and back down and after making coffee and wanted to see what was going on in Israel. And, I don't know much about how all of this works, but I do know that there is more than just Israel there trying to defeat Hamas, because all of a sudden you've got Lebanon and Hezbollah wanting to come in from the north. You've got Egypt and Jordan that are, staying out of it right now. They don't want it on their borders. They don't want to get involved. They've got interests with the United States, and they don't want to spoil those. But then you find out all the operatives behind everything. There's weaponry in Gaza that is North Korean. The North Koreans are attempting to fund the downfall of Israel. You've got China is involved. So North Korea, China. You've got Russia and China working on finding strategic allyship, if you will, alliances. And so you've got Russia and China. North Korea, which is allied with China. And you got those entities that are funding places like Hezbollah and Hamas. And then you've got them funding Iran, standing by Iran, and Iran funding Hamas. So what's going on with all that? Why are all the big superpowers wanting to suddenly... Now, you say, well, the United States helps Israel. Well, of course, we have strategic reasons for wanting to be there helping Israel. It's obvious. They are an ally of ours, but we have strategic reasons. But also, what are we doing over there? We're trying to help Israel defend itself, defend its right to exist. Is that altruistic on our part? Is that the United States is pure and clean in their desire to support Israel because it's just supporting an ally who's being attacked and their right to exist and so on? Is that all there is to the United States involvement? I'm sure not. And if we dig deep enough, we can find some of that. But we've got the United States, as I look at it, basically trying to help Israel exist. Then you've got the other superpowers basically helping smaller powers try to wipe out Israel. Why do they want them wiped out? Why do they want Israel? Here's the big question. Who wants to control Israel? Who wants what Israel has? And why are they trying to either work for or against Israel? This is the study we've got to keep our eyes on. And how much of this starts to involve us as far as we've got battleships and destroyers out in the Mediterranean already poised to help Israel. What happens when, and I haven't heard that this is going to happen yet, but it's on the brink. What happens if we have to put military on the ground or boots on the ground, as they've said? We've already got soldiers over there, military over there. So when does this become World War III? And why did Hezbollah launch bombs or missiles from Lebanon aiming at Jerusalem yesterday? They want to destroy Jerusalem? They destroyed Jerusalem. That's more than just Israel. Of course, those missiles didn't make it, thanks to Israel's defense system, but they were targeting Jerusalem. And what do you think would happen if Lebanon took out the Dome of the Rock? So all these things start to go through my mind, and I don't have the strategy in front of me. I couldn't call up a map and show you everything that's exactly happening right now. But I did start to look up some of the headlines this morning after hearing some things in the news. And I'm looking at where they're in their 14th day over there since this all began. And the Israel-Hamas war, it's being called by Al Jazeera, which is a predominantly Islamic biased, I guess you could say, news source. Although I've seen some good news come out of Al Jazeera before, but they are definitely slanted against Israel. What do they have to say? Al Jazeera says second batch of aid enters Gaza through the Rafah crossing down by Egypt. And Egyptian media report a convoy of 17 trucks bringing aid to Palestinians that crosses into Gaza. And the Palestinians report receiving new warnings from Israel's military to move to the south of the Gaza Strip. Now, this will tell you something when you hear Hamas always saying that Israel is targeting our children and our women, and it's baloney, because Israel always announces, we are going to be attacking this area. If you are a civilian, move out of the area. Now, I heard somebody put it a very good way. He's a guy that is a former Marine. He lost both his legs over in Iraq, and while he was serving, and he was talking about the strategy over there and the weaponry and all of that. And he made some comment about war. He said, war is, yes, it's violence. Nobody wants war. He says, but if you have to defend yourself, you have to engage in it. And defending your right to exist, taking out, right now, the main goal of Israel is to take out Hamas, the ones that are constantly creating problems, to make sure that these kinds of attacks never happen again. As this man put it, he says, and he's a seasoned soldier, he says, you go to war to prevent having to go to war. That's why it's there. And he said, is there going to be collateral damage with private citizens? Yeah, it's going to happen. He says, that's the sad part. That's the awkward part of it. Hi, Ro. Do you need to talk to me while I'm on radio? Well, then come over here. What do you need?
And Mom and Hillary, and we're going somewhere.
Where are you going?
We're going shoe shopping.
Shoe shopping?
Yeah, because
we're going shoe shopping. That's something I don't want to be a part of.
I need basketball shoes.
You need basketball shoes. All right. Okay. When are you leaving?
10 to 10:30.
Okay. Well, tell Mom she's got to come down here and say hi on the radio show before you go.
Mom just got into the shower.
She just got in the shower. Mom just got in the shower. That sounds like they're calling, like a call for me to get up there.
No. Dad, look what I did.
What'd you do? Cool. What is that? Just screensavers?
Yeah, they're my
Oh, Colby and Sam. Sam and Colby.
Yeah.
They're these guys. If you haven't seen them, they're actually becoming pretty well known for what they do. These young kids here, I don't know if you can see that very well. There you go. If I get close enough, those two guys, they have
You have to, click on it.
well, now it went black. They've got a paranormal show they've done, and they're kind of
You click on it.
dipshitty, weird teenage kids when they started this thing about 6 years ago. These guys, there they are. You may or may not have run across their show, and they do. They're weird, they're stupid, they're all of that. But one thing I noticed about these two guys, it's a YouTube show, it's a YouTube channel. As they go along throughout the years, when you watch them, these two guys get a little more serious. And they take what they're doing seriously. Now I've seen them. I just saw them on Joe Rogan not long ago. And now they've got a movie coming out to the cinemas, the Cinemark theaters or something. And they're going to be in 170 theaters across the country with a movie they did at the Conjuring House. And it's going to have all their antics and weird stuff and all of that. But if you haven't seen them, Sam and Colby, Colby, you can go look them up on YouTube. And they do, like I say, dipshitty teenager stuff. But now they're in their 20s and they're getting more serious. They've experienced serious stuff. Steph says they're starting to calm down a bit. Are you talking about these two guys starting to calm down? Or are you on a different topic, Steph? Hi, Rowan, says Matthew from Barbados. Word. She says word, Matthew. So, all right. Well, you guys have fun shoe shopping.
Is there anything else in this water?
Just ice. It's ice water. It's fresh.
Doesn't taste like water.
Doesn't taste like water.
Yeah. It has a taste.
Tastes like water to me.
No, it doesn't.
It's a clean tumbler, Intrepid Radio tumbler, by the way, folks. If you don't have one of these, you can get one. And freshly cleaned and ice out of the freezer, of course, and water out of the fridge. Filtered water.
Soda exploded in all of our ice.
When did that happen?
Like a month ago.
Did you dump a month ago? It's probably long gone. Did you clean it out?
No.
No.
That's not my job.
No, that's not her job. What is your job?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I don't
Yeah,
have
as
to
I
do-
suspected.
I don't have to do cat boxes anymore.
Yeah. So I was talking on a topic before you came in. I didn't even remember what it was. Israel something. There's Uncle John. How you doing, Uncle John?
Good morning. Brought some coffee.
If you don't remember.
I do.
Yes, coffee. Mm. So, and you get a lot of these. What I was talking about Israel
Yeah,
is-
I'm leaving.
well, it would be important for you to know this stuff, but you don't have to know it right now. This is a possibility of leading up to World War III, as everybody looking at this and examining it, because everybody's involved in this, because everybody's helping somebody else out, or everybody is funding somebody else. Like I say, when I'm talking about North Korea, Little Rocket Man, as Trump called him, sending weapons to Gaza, and not for the Palestinians, it's for Hamas. You got, and they're allied with China. Then you've got China is funding Iran, and Iran is funding Hamas, and Iran is funding Hezbollah. And then you've got Russia now allying and doing some kind of new talks with China. So you've got all this going on. You've got Saudi Arabia, who is not allied with Israel, but under Trump they had struck some kind of a deal, and now that is out there, so you don't know where Saudi Arabia stands. So you've got all these different players. You've got the United States supporting Israel and talking to all these other states. Hey, Iran, we could have a war with Iran. The PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, I think Hamas did away with them, if I'm not mistaken. we could just ask that question. Where is the PLO today? What happened to the PLO? It's headquartered in El Bira, a city in the West Bank, which is Gaza, as the officially recognized government of the de jure state of Palestine. De jure. The state of Palestine of the day. It has enjoyed United Nations observer status since 1974. So today's latest, the PLO, they're still, I guess, considered we just don't call them that anymore. The PNC is the highest decision-making body of the PLO, considered to be the parliament of all Palestinians inside and outside of occupied Gaza. However, it's not a country. So it never has been a country. So there you go. There's where PLO is today. They're really some of the people that you're hearing when there's decisions being made over there. And so on. Let's see. I'll be busy today watching football, says Field Guy and Steph. So here's the big question. What happens to the United States if the whole world goes to war over the Middle East? And if the whole world goes to war over the Middle East, does that tie into biblical prophecy of the Middle East? I know that we're all really big on always talking about Nostradamus said this and Nostradamus said that. Well, what about the book of Revelation? What about the book of Daniel? What about all these prophecies of Israel being the focal point of Armageddon, of the end times? That all the world, the known world around them, would move against Israel. So that's very interesting. So what do you think is going to happen? And where do you think this is all going to end up? I'm not a defeatist. I'm not a fatalist. I look at all this stuff and, we try to cancel it out of our minds. Because guess what? Like Fieldy is and Steph are very keen on football's still going on. Sports is still going. The sports world, the entertainment world is still flying strong. Hollywood is still moving. Movies are being made. People are taking vacations. Things are going on. What's going to happen when the whole Middle East, is Israel going to be wiped out? Will Israel, okay, let's step outside of prophecies. Will Israel, let's say it has nothing to do with prophecy. Will Israel be wiped out? Will Israel survive all of this that's going on? What does Israel have that the rest of the world wants? Does Hamas just want Israel wiped out because it wants to give the land to the Palestinians? No. There's something else going on there. I would like to see what kind of tyrannical taskmasters Hamas would be to the Palestinian citizens if they were granted a Palestinian state. If they somehow made a state, who's going to rule that? Who's going to govern it? So, let's see. The Raytheon company will bank like hell on this, says Elderberry. There you go. Well, let's see what the sleeper cells pop up here in the United States. I just saw a thing this morning on the number of terrorist watch list people stopped at the border, the southern border, starting in 2019, 0. 2020, there were 3. 2021, it jumped to like 60. 2022, it jumped over 100. 2023 so far, we've had 169 terror operatives on the terror watch list stopped at the southern border. And those are the ones we've caught. We've had over 2 million people come in through our porous southern border. How many operatives do you suppose are already here in the United States?
Are they saying that we have only caught 10% or less of the people coming across the border?
That I didn't catch a percentage on that one.
Yeah.
I just happened to see those figures this morning that
Yeah.
we're at 169 caught.
I'm not sure they want to talk about it.
I don't think they do. So the handling of the southern border from the last presidency to this presidency, you can see what has happened. The border is a huge issue. It's not just about fentanyl. It's not just about people sneaking into the United States. It's about operatives. It's about people that are here. How many cells, sleeper cells, do you suppose there are in the United States because of our lax southern border, our inability to keep people out? 2 million people, I think it was 2.3 million is what I heard. I might be wrong on that. Have crossed our border illegally so far this year. So, millions. So, what does that do to us as a nation? If you've got nations that want to dissemble the United States, that want to attack us, that want to take us down, that want to own us, that want to create who do you suppose all these people are that are in the streets that were protesting against Israel, pro-Palestinian, they call it. It's really pro-Hamas in the streets in the United States. Who are those people? Where'd they come from? These are people that, number one, don't understand what's actually going on over there. And number two, led by probably operatives or people that are here legally. It could be. What did we say was the one of the forms of jihad is not necessarily killing all the people. It's coming in and breeding in a voting bloc for over the last 20 to 40 years in this country. So, what do we do with that information? What do we know for sure? What does our government know for sure? Why? And I step back, and I would love to sit down with these leaders, not on an official base. This wouldn't be the official line, but I'd love to sit down and ask them, what is it you want with the United States? Why do you want to take over the United States? Is it just to own us? They don't. Do they want to kill all the people here? Probably not. But they would kill people if they had to. They want to control the United States. What would our country look like if, say, an alliance of Russia and China destroyed the United States? This is just, I'm going into Lala hypothetical land here. What would happen to the states? Would we be a free country anymore? Who would be controlling it? Would they allow us to have our government? Oh, you're still the United States. We just own you and control you. What would that look like? Would we be wiped out? Paul from Newcastle, how you doing? Keep an eye on Iran. Absolutely. And Iran's behind a lot of this right now. And so I didn't say good morning to almost anybody yet this morning, a couple of you. So Anita Palmer says we can pray the DOJ and CIA have been watching the real terrorists rather than tracking Trump supporters, parents, and just plain average Americans who just want to be left alone. Exactly. Steph said many bought General Dynamics. Numerous Republicans bought heavy into all energy companies, oil energy companies, XOM, CVX, etc. The Democrats bought into cyber companies, cybersecurity. Yep. So what's going to happen in our world? Do we have a world that's heading toward peace? Or do we have a world that's going to constantly tear itself apart? What is it about people? Uncle John, anybody else? What is it about human beings and people that we're always fighting to see who can be on top? You know, that can happen in small ways too. Who gets the top tonight? No, but it's we're always fighting to see who's going to win and who's going to control who. What's it all for?
Heinlein said in Moon is a Harsh Mistress that as soon as you form a government, You form factions so you can keep other people living the way they want.
Pretty much. And why? Why does
don't know.
China want to own us? Why do they want to tell us what to do? I just want to say to China, fuck off and do your own thing in your own country. You're big enough.
Exactly.
You got land over there. What do they want here? They want, well, obviously, it's not just our land. Is it our resources? Is it what the infrastructure we've built, the alliances we have, the things that we do around the world? What is it they want from us? I look at Hamas. They don't want the land. They want Jews dead. That's in their charter. We know this already. I've talked about this 10 times on this show. We know this. It's in their charter.
And yet people don't believe that.
No, they don't. I wonder if I can even call this up. Their charter. The platform, the Federation of American Scientists, the platform of the Islamic Resistance Movement, the Covenant of Hamas. Here's their main points. Let's see. This started in August 19th, 1988. The Islamic Resistance Movement, also known as Hamas, is an extremist fundamentalist Islamic organization. This is their covenant, the covenant of the Hamas, the main points. An extremist fundamentalist Islamic organization operating in territories under Israeli control. Its covenant is a comprehensive manifesto comprised of 36 separate articles, all of which promote the basic Hamas goal of destroying the state of Israel through jihad, Islamic holy war. The following are the excerpts of the Hamas covenant. The first one is the Islamic Resistance Movement is a distinguished Palestinian movement whose allegiance is to Allah and whose way of life is Islam. It strives to raise the banner of Allah over every inch of Palestine. Okay, and as to that, is not Allah in Islam? And I know as friend of this show, Sarah Yusuf, listener friend of this show, has pointed out, Islam it's against the tenets of Islam to kill. Murder is wrong, yet you've got Hamas doing what they did. How do they justify that, or do they overlook it? I had seen something in the news of how they had interrogated somebody from Hamas who was part of the killings that launched all this thing. Remember, two things launched all of this less than 2 weeks ago. It was the Hamas members parachuting and motorcycling into the music festival, which was about 3.5 miles from the border wall between Israel and Palestine, or Gaza. And they killed 260 kids listening to music. And then that same day, you had Hamas go into the Kfar Aza kibbutz, basically a hippie farm. It'd be like going into, I don't know, think of some place in the United States that's comparable. What's the place down in Arizona? You can go. I know there's Santa Fe. It's an arts community and all. Be like going into a hippie farm arts community, and in the middle of the night, and they killed 200 people in their beds while they slept. Some of them tried to fight, but they killed them. They killed over 40 babies. They beheaded some of them. Some of this is it's documented. It's not propaganda, which is what Hamas would like to have you believe. And so when this stuff happens, and yet that is so against what Islam is supposed to stand for. So your Islamic extremists are doing what they're doing. If Sarah was here, I'd have her call in and talk about this a little bit, maybe give us a little insight into that. These are the goals of Hamas. Back to their charter on the destruction of Israel. Israel will exist and will continue to exist until Islam will obliterate it, just as it obliterated others before it. This is in the charter of Hamas. The lands of Palestine is an Islamic waqf, WAQF, or a holy possession consecrated for future Muslim generations until Judgment Day. No one can reduce it or any part, abandon it or any part of it. Palestine is an Islamic land. Since this is the case, the liberation of Palestine is an individual duty for every Muslim, wherever he may be. The call to jihad. The day the enemies usurp part of the Muslim land is jihad becomes the individual duty of every living Muslim. And in the fate of the Jews' usurpation, it is compulsory that the banner of jihad be raised. That's Article 15 of theirs. Ranks will close, fighters joining other fighters, and masses everywhere in the Islamic world will come forward in response to the call of duty, loudly proclaiming, "Hail to Jihad." This cry will reach the heavens and will go on being resounded until liberation is achieved, the invaders vanquished, and Allah's victory comes about. These are the articles of Hamas. Rejection of a negotiated peace settlement. Peace initiatives. This is again from the Hamas charter. Peace initiatives and so-called peaceful solutions and international conferences are in contradiction to the principles of the Islamic resistance movement. Those conferences are no more than a means to appoint the infidels as arbitrators in the lands of Islam. There is no solution for the Palestinian problem except by jihad. Initiatives, proposals, and international conferences are but a waste of time and exercise in futility. That's from Article 13.
You need to remember that every time they sit down at the table with you.
Right. When they sit down at the table with you, they do not believe that they are supposed to be there. They do it for show. They do it to buy time. They do it for whatever. In these articles, they condemn the Israel-Egypt peace treaty. There's an anti-Semitic incitement. It says the day of judgment will not come about until Muslims fight Jews and kill them. Then the Jews will hide behind rocks and trees, and the rocks and trees will cry out, "O Muslim, there is a Jew hiding behind me. Come and kill us." That's from Article 7. The enemies have been scheming for a long time and have accumulated huge and influential material wealth. With their money, they took control of the world media. With their money, they stirred revolutions in various parts of the globe. They stood behind the French Revolution, the Communist Revolution, and most, see, they're going back in history. They're going before the state of Israel even was refounded. They stood behind the French Revolution, the Communist Revolution, and most of all the revolutions we hear about. With their money, they formed secret organizations such as the Freemasons, Rotary Clubs, and the Lions Club, which are spreading around the world in order to destroy societies and carry out Zionist interests. They stood behind World War I. They formed the League of Nations through which they could rule the world. They were behind World War II, through which they made huge financial gains. There is no war going on anywhere without them having their finger in it. That's Article 22.
Maybe they're trying to get control of us so they can control Alcoa.
Maybe.
I know, obscure and derivative.
I know. Zionism, scheming, has no end. And after Palestine, they will covet expansions from the Nile to the Euphrates River. And when they have finished digesting the area on which they have laid their hand, they will look forward to more expansion. Their scheme has been laid out in the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, Article 32. And the final one that's in this little piece I've got here, the Hamas regards itself the spearhead and the vanguard of the circle of struggle against world Zionism. Islamic groups all over the world should also do the same, since they are the best equipped for their future role in the fight against the warmongering Jews. Now, let me ask you, did you hear in any of that? We stand for the people of Palestine so they can have a state of their own. I didn't hear that in any of that. All I hear is how much they want to kill the Jews. So,
interesting where China fits into this, because they are not known for their kindness to Muslims in their own country.
No, they're not. As a matter of fact, Hamas proves every day that they hide behind the citizens of citizens. It's not a country, behind Palestinians. They will use them as shields. So Ryan said, any chance Israelis will retake the dome? Now, could you imagine what would happen if Israel took the Dome of the Rock, which stands archaeologically on top of the old Temple Mount? That whole platform there, where the Dome of the Rock sits, with the eastern gate that's sealed off that faces the Mount of Olives. That whole area was the structure, the platform of the old temple. First of all, the Temple of Solomon, then the second temple built after the Babylonian captivity. Then Herod's great temple was there. All on that platform, and you can prove that just by going. It's the only place it existed. That's where that platform still exists. You can find Herodian stonework beneath the current stonework, or at least the Crusader era stonework. You can find Solomonic or 10th century BCE archaeology beneath those walls and the stones put in place there by Solomon. So will they destroy? What'll happen if that gets destroyed? Will Israel retake the Dome of the Rock? Under the current situation, no, because that land is partitioned. I haven't seen Israel working to get rid of the Dome of the Rock or get Muslims out of Israel there. I haven't seen that as ever being a part of point of conflict in Israel. The conflict rises in Israel because Israel has to keep defending itself against people that want to destroy them. Hamas
most of the land they're supposed to have acquired has occurred because they were attacked and they were pushing people back, and they wanted to leave some boundaries, because Israel is a very narrow country backed up by an ocean.
Right. Morgan Snow asks, so is this all about religion? Yeah, yes, and no. What I call the Hamas operatives militants who went into the kibbutz 2 weeks ago and the music festival and killed all those people, was that done for religion? Maybe in the name of religion. The Crusaders did it. The Crusaders killed Muslims in the name of religion and God. That's not new news to any of us if you study history at all. That
they're still mad about
God
that
on their side. What's that?
They're so mad about that.
Yeah, they are.
We're going like, well, that was like thousands of years ago, and
it's 1,000 years ago.
They're going, they killed our relatives.
Yeah. Professor Bauer says religion is responsible for more death than any other reason. Professor, my Jewish grandfather used to say that. And when I was in high school, and I blew him off because, I was so fundamental, like you were when you were younger, Professor. I was a fundamental Baptist, heading into ministry and all this. And I had certain views of Israel and certain views of God and so on. And so I didn't believe that. But the soon after I started becoming aware of how the world actually works, I would agree with you. Religion is responsible for more death than any other reason. I look at just things we've covered on this show, on Intrepid Radio over the years, talking about the early church, not because it's a show about religion, but we were looking at early Christianity was very different from the Christianity we have today. First century Christianity built out of mysticism. And we went through all of that, but who were they at war with? A war of mindsets, a war of religious points of view. And in the first century, what was rising up at the literalist Orthodox Church? And they were at war with the mystics, with those who the philosophy of mysticism in Christianity. And in the name of the love of Jesus, the literalist Orthodox Church would put to death the mystics, the mysticism, the Gnostics. They practically wiped them off the face of the earth. They burned them, they tortured them, they mutilated them, they killed them. And all in the name of the love of God. Of course, it didn't say that, but in the name of their religion. Is that what Jesus preached? Go out and win followers for me, but make sure you slaughter all of those who don't believe you. I don't recall reading that in any of the red letter editions of the New Testament.
No.
But this is what they did. And by the end of the second century, the literalist Orthodox Church became the Roman Catholic Church. It was the church structure. So, yeah, you had a lot of Jewish followers of Jesus before the Rome destroyed Israel, or Jerusalem. Yeah, you did. And so it's religion says Anita, religion has brought on many wars. Look at how many countries and areas in our own country they were going to civilize people through religious teachings. Yeah. I look at even there are things that radical Islam does that fundamental Baptists do. It's short of killing people. But you've got, what's that church in Texas again that was big in all the politics during the Obama era? Where the heck are they? What are they called? You'd recognize them. They were anti-abortion and anti-this and anti. They go protest everything politically. We passed through the town where that church was, and we were driving up from Texas, and we went through a little town to get gas and get some food. Or wait, we had the Tesla back then, so we were charging up the Tesla, and we stopped in this little town, and we went around the block with the GPS. We went right by this church, and I said, "That's the church that's in the news all the time. What was that one called? What was the name of that church? The Westboro Baptist Church or something like that?
Something like that. I don't.
That?
That sounds vaguely familiar.
I took a picture of it because we just happened to buy it by accident. And that's another case of that. Westboro, there it is, Grumpy Stack said. The Westboro Baptist Church. I've got a picture of it. So somewhere I took a picture of that church as we went by. And this was a few years ago. And but you look at that and you look at that kind of teaching.
Small group of people got the whole left part of the country up in tight panties.
Yep.
Gave them power way beyond their number.
Yes.
Because of their reaction to it.
You look at that. This is the Christian church in America. And I hailed back to Jesus' own words. What did he say in that very famous passage where the Pharisees are asking, should we pay taxes to Caesar? Jesus said, somebody give me a coin. Somebody handed him a coin. He says, whose image is on the coin? And they said, Caesar's. Jesus handed him back the coin and he said, give to Caesar what's Caesar's and to God's what is God's. And so he says, Caesar's taxing you, pay him his taxes. But that's different than what you give to God. That's a heart level thing. And so render unto Caesar's that which is Caesar's, and unto God that which is God's, is what the Old English says.
Another important moment like that was questioning about the stoning.
Yes.
And I always thought I register that in my head when I'm thinking about people that make me angry.
Yeah. I want to stone that guy.
Yeah.
So I never
Let he who has not sinned throw the first stone.
Oh, that yes. I was thinking of some Levitical law when you brought that up. We talked about that recently on the show about Levitical law, strange Levitical law, the laws of Moses in the Levitical law. And what am I thinking? The Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible, and it included things like if you are caught in adultery, you should be taken out and stoned. For
being caught,
for right or wrong as it is, take the moral judgment out of it. Why should you go? And it was directed at women more than men. Remember, even in the situation with Jesus where he writes in the sand, he says, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone." It said they dragged the woman out. She was caught in the act, they're saying, and they dragged her out to be stoned. Where was the guy? If they caught her in the act, what happened to the guy? Didn't say they had the guy out there and they were going to have him stoned.
No.
Directed at the woman. So, stoning. That's the kind of thing that I look at and I say, those things, the passages where you read God commanded Israel to go in and wipe out every last man, woman, child, sheep, goat, dog, chicken, kill them all when they were conquering the land. And I said, that doesn't sound like a God act to me. That sounds like a man act. Stoning somebody for committing adultery, where part of the Levitical law said, if your child is rebellious, take them to the city gates and have them stoned at the city gate. Who's going to kill their kid because he's rebellious? There obviously has to be either something much deeper to that passage than we understand, but the language is pretty clear. It doesn't spell it out. Well, if he joins a sect that is murdering people against your wishes, is that rebellion? Oh, take him to the gate and have him stoned. Doesn't say that. He's rebellious, a rebellious kid. It's like, what the fuck?
Sounds like something you'd tell children in Sunday school so they don't rebel.
Right. Don't rebel. We can take you out to the city gate and have you stoned. Adultery, whether it's good or bad or whatever it might be. And of course, the excuse for this was, well, God was setting up his peculiar people, his chosen people. They had to be different than everybody else. And that's why they had these weird laws. And I look at all that and I go, that stuff sounds an awful lot like what Islam, radical Islam, does today.
Yeah.
What all these people who say, God is on our side, therefore we're going to slit your throats and kill you. That sounds like the same thing. And, but it's different because it was God and God's chosen people or whoever, it was God's edict. It's in the Bible. Well, I don't care. It still sounds like everybody else out there. It sounds like a religious society that's willing to commit murder to make sure that everybody under their control worships the way they worship and thinks the way they think. And this is why I began to have problems with certain things out there. There was the accounts of David before he was the king. He was running from Saul, and he went to work as a mercenary for the enemies, the Philistines' king. David was doing mercenary work for him. And he was trying to keep cover, it says. And he would go into these little towns in the Negev, the south of Israel, and he would wipe them out. It says, and David would put the towns through the fire killing men, women, children, animals. But then they would keep some of the animals. But they would do that. Why did David do that? So there would be nobody left alive to be able to be a witness to the fact that he was doing what he was doing. Did he do that for a religious cause or because David was not a nice guy? Hey, Audrey, good to see you. Yeah, thou shalt not kill, only if I say so, Morgan Snow said. Achish of Gath, says Matthew Sainsbury. Yep. Blood for the blood god, exactly. Oh, look who's wandering in. Only for a moment.
We're going shoe shopping.
Going shoe shopping. Hey, beautiful.
Hey, Rainey.
Shoes. Hey.
How you doing?
I'm doing. How you doing?
I'm good.
Good.
Your eyes look as tired as my eyes.
I am tired today.
Well, you stood on concrete all day yesterday.
Yeah.
Asphalt, concrete, whatever. So we're just talking about Israel and religion and stuff like that.
Fun.
So interesting stuff.
Well, have fun. I'm going shoe shopping. I'm taking Ellie shopping in a large t-shirt, which looks like she has no pants on. Come
Is
over
it
here.
warm outside or cool
I
outside?
think it's cool outside.
She's got a large t-shirt on that drops way down. Let's see it.
Past her shorts.
Past your shorts. So she wants to go outside like that.
I have shorts on now.
I see. Well, just do what mom says. That's all I say.
You found socks? Because you will not get any shoes if you do not have socks to try shoes on.
Yeah, you got to have socks on.
I will.
I hate shoe shopping.
I do too. Where are you going for it?
DSW.
Okay.
Ro needs basketball shoes. So
Oh, yeah. Basketball shoes.
I don't know what are Nikes nowadays, $150.
Yeah. There goes all your earnings from yesterday.
Yep. Thanks to all the people who bought my tumblers.
Yes.
All right.
So,
Out of here.
all right. You
Have
go
a
have
fun
fun
day.
spending money on kid shoes that they'll grow out of next year.
Right?
I love you. Bye.
Probably not even next year. Probably in the next 6 months.
Probably in the next 6 months. Yeah, exactly. So, I see Michael's here. Now that I shifted my computer, you were behind my microphone on the screen.
Good morning, Michael.
Hey, good morning, Uncle John. I sent you a private message that said look down.
Oh, I never look at my private messages. For anybody who sends me a private message, I never look at them during the show. Private message, look down.
Yeah, look down. You was talking about Israel. People forgot about there's Turkey, there's Pakistan, and there's India.
Yeah.
And Pakistan and India both are nuclear nations that really hate each other anyway.
Yeah.
That are just looking for a reason to jump in.
Hey, Michael, take over for a minute. I'm going to go get some more warm coffee.
Oh, I just filled mine up. So how's the weather, Uncle John? Give us a weather report.
I haven't been outside in a couple of days.
Oh, is that nice? Okay.
Been busy.
Yeah,
Been busy with mom and dad.
How are they doing? They doing all? Because I know y'all have
Mom is declining. She's in hospice now.
That's like my dad is. He's in. They made a really nice name for it here. They call it comfort care.
Yeah. Basically.
I told him, soft language makes soft men. It really does.
But
call it what it is. It's.
They're in their 90s, and it is what it is.
Yeah. What is it? Somebody said one time to be born is to die, and that's what.
A couple weeks ago, Mom wanted to know when I was going back to school.
Tell her when you can afford it, because now, my school is just really, really pricey. Every time around it something.
I'm afraid if I went back to school now, they'd find me disruptive.
Oh, I'm very disrupted, and I go to a Christian university, which is odd to a lot of people, but I go to Grand Canyon University, and the other day I had a post, and they said something about a teacher with a bumper sticker getting let go because of her political statement that she had on her car. And I basically said everybody wanted to be a social justice warrior. Everybody was a professional victim, and everybody tried to climb up on somebody else's back, like that. And my professor actually called me. She's like, "Hey, I hid your comment until I could talk to you. I was like, hey, you don't have to hide it from my account. You know, they can kiss my ass. And she said, oh, I just want to make sure before I put it out there. I was like, okay.
Nice, Paul, from your guest.
It's it. Yeah, put it out there. It says, if the past, a lot of women.
If past lives are true, a lot of women have been centipedes. Have you seen how many shoes they have?
No shit. True statement.
Audrey, you're still here? I thought you were just doing a flyby.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I see Audrey these days, it's a flyby.
Yeah.
So nice to see you're still here.
Thank you for connecting that to the shoes for me, Scotty, because I was puzzled.
Oh, you're welcome. That's what I do. I make connections here.
Yeah, Uncle John wants to go back to school. We want to start a GoFundMe to go back to school so he can be disruptive.
Turn up my light, but it washes me out. There, my light's up.
Yeah.
You're right.
Well, if you go, I know Scotty's big into the archaeology and stuff like that. Well, if he's going to go back to school, what would you?
That's interesting, because if I did go back to school, anthropology and archaeology would be my fields. Something else I couldn't make a living at.
Yeah.
Who's Jim, Professor Bauer? You talk to other people other than this show? What up with that?
Yeah. PB, Professor Bauer's just like peanut butter. You know, he goes with everything, right?
What, he sticks on the roof of your mouth and you got to scrape it off?
Yeah, I think
you know, drink a lot of whiskey to wash it down.
Yeah, hey, I tell him if you like he said, as you get a certain age and your beard turns a certain color, you know that bullshit meter just kind of fades in, and it's like, how do I process all this through? You know, my
cool.
ingrained
Jim Goodall.
Oh, Goodall. Oh, is that the person? Oh, that was Jane. Oh, that was Jane Goodall.
And Jim Goodall was her husband. He's the guy that first taught chimpanzees how to fly. Don't you know nothing?
I don't know. The only chimpanzee, no, he's an orangutan. And Clint Eastwood, any which way but loose, any which way but Clyde. Right turn, Clyde.
So, anyway, we can lighten up the show a little bit if we want. I put out my my stuff for today. I do have to say though that that is one of the things that turned me away from the religion or the denomination or the mode of belief that I was in, was because it's all seemed to be the same kind of thing.
Yeah, man.
God is on our side. We have God's will. We know God's will. We know God's will for you, our followers, our parishioners, our congregation. And you're here on Sunday mornings to hear us preach about what makes you in God's will or out of God's will. And so we're going to teach that to you. And there was justification for all the wrath of God stuff in the Old Testament. When I look at the wrath of God stuff in the Old Testament, I see the hand of man. I don't see the hand of God. Now, if God is that kind of God, he's up there seething against it. Would he be seething against me right now? Because I would say that about the character of God in the Old Testament. Am I damned because of that? Because I think that way? Because I think that's not a God act. But then again, we have to start asking, well, what is a God act? Yeah. Is God love? Or did God create love? Did he create hate? Did he create war? Did he create killing? Did he create everything that exists? He created it, or the ability for us to do that. Is God a personage, an entity that is involved in what we do? If he is, he certainly lets us get away with a lot of shit and then condemns the majority of us. But he's made a way, according to Christianity, for us to escape that. But believing that is something you can only do by faith.
You know, years ago, I seen a really, really honest preacher, and he was on the questionable. You know, that's back when you had the big satellites that went up. It looked like you had a UFO in your backyard, and he was on the one satellite because you had to go from satellite to satellite. And he said, "Send your money to God, but make the check in my name." He told me what to do with it.
So you carried all that down here so you could carry it out to the car?
Yeah.
All right.
And I thought, yep, that is an honest.
Well, have fun.
It's a family show.
Yeah, that's right. So they're driving into the city to go to this shoe store. It's about a half-hour drive from here where they're going.
Yeah.
So Ellie just walks into the studio and she's got a big blanket and 2 pillows. And and then she throws them in the big chair over there, then comes around and says goodbye to me. And I said, what's all that? And she says, I'm bringing that so I'm comfortable in the car. So she carried all that stuff from upstairs all the way down here so she could say goodbye. Now she's carrying it all the way back up to carry it out to the car. So there you go.
I was going to ask you, what do you think about them drafting women? They said they said they opened it up so they could bring females into the draft between a certain age.
Here in the United States?
Yes.
I think do women need to be drafted? I don't know. I'm one of those who thinks that there are probably capable women. Not probably. There are capable women. Yeah. But I also am a firm believer. Firm is a hard way to put it. This is a touchy subject, but I will say what I believe. I believe the best of all worlds is the men fight and the women stay at home and take care of the home.
Home
the nation. The women, the men go to fight. Does that mean there are not capable women? No. Does that mean I would say there should be no women in combat? No. That's the best of all worlds. The best of all worlds would be I'd be making tons of money and my wife would be home taking care of the kids and happy, going shopping happy. And then we don't have to scrounge for money to go shopping.
She's shopping with plenty of money.
That would be nice, but there are things I would prefer, and then there are realities. Do we need women to be drafted? Why are they bringing that up? Is it because enlistment is so low?
That's what I think.
I think that's it right now. Enlistment's very low. You look at the way the military was under Ronald Reagan and the height of the military. I joined the Marine Corps at age 20. I was 22. When I signed up for the Marines, 5 years later than most kids join up.
Yeah.
I signed up when I was 22 to be an ossifer. And I was going to go to basic training and then go to Pensacola for officer training. Bye, have fun. And I signed up for 6 years. And my MOS was to fly F-14 jets. And so I signed up, and then, of course, I broke my back in training. And I got sent home before any of that happened. And we all know that story. I've told that 100 times. But that was during a time when Reagan was in office, and I, as a 22-year-old, not set in a career yet. I was doing art and working off and on for little graphics companies, but I was caught up in the fervor of enlisting and building our military, defending our nation, being proud of it. And so that's when I joined up. But out of my 6 years, I ended up serving 30 days.
But it was a different generation, different mindset.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to take care of, what's the old saying? They said you do it for God and country. And now,
Ryan says it's an equality issue, not a need for draftees. But from whose end of it? Is it an equality issue saying women are out there clamoring, saying, we want to be drafted too? Or is it the government saying, hey, if we can draft men, we can draft women. And since you all want equality and be like men, we can draft you too.
Yeah.
Is there
a
nose thumbing thing with that? Hey, you're scrambling and pushing for so much equality. All right, you can be drafted too.
But,
well, no, we don't want that. We don't want that kind of equality. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the reason for it is, Ryan. Maybe you know.
Free up more men to put in combat units.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would work.
And can women be there? There was a really good movie that was out years ago with Meg Ryan. I thought it was a true story, but it's fictionalized as much as they do with true stories about a woman who was she killed in battle or she was responsible for the deaths in battle. And they were showing all these different scenarios in the same scenario, only from different perspectives. One said she cried and broke down in battle. under fire. The other one said she was strong and they showed all these different. And I don't remember the story.
She was up for a Congressional Medal of Honor
for that,
and they were researching the background to see if it was a worthy. If I'm thinking of the same movie.
Yeah, something like that. That's what it was. And I thought it was pretty good at representing what women could be like in battle. And it turns out, she was heroic. She did her job.
I served under 2 different female commanders that I have the utmost respect for to this day.
Yeah.
And I would have followed them anywhere.
I would be the last one to say a woman should not be in battle. I would prefer we had a society where women didn't have to do that. Does that mean? But then again, not every woman's choice is to be a stay-at-home mom either.
No.
People look at us and at times have said of me, well, Rainey was a stay-at mom for your 3 kids. You kept her under your thumb. And I say, bullshit. Bullshit. I said, I can't keep Rainey under my thumb if I'd wanted to. I said, Rainey wanted to be a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
And we talked about it together. We said, where is it going to profit us more? If you go to work and she was doing massage therapy. If you did the number of massages you could do every week and do those, and then we augmented against the fact that we have to be paying for daycare.
Yeah, daycare.
We looked at all these things, and we balanced it out. And we said, if we had kids at home and my wife decided to go back to work, our kids would be raised at least a minimum of 8 hours a day by somebody else, while we're paying out 80% of the extra money we're bringing in by my wife working. And so we looked at all those and we balanced them out. And Rainey said, I'd rather be a stay-at-home mom. I like that too. Let's do it. So have we sacrificed over the years because of that? Sure. Could we be further ahead financially? Maybe. Would we have struggled as much at certain times on one freelance artist's income, which goes like this? It's a roller coaster.
Boy, do I know that.
Done better if we were both doing this, And when it comes to the military, why do we have to be so guarded about our language? If a woman wants to join the military, that's great. If that's what you want to do with your life, then do it and do the best you can, like everybody else.
What does it call them? Israel calls us everybody, man.
Everybody
and female
serves in Israel.
2 years. Then you're
mandatory.
Then you're part of the inactive reserves, and you take.
They had to make it that way because of the situation they're in over there, constantly defending themselves.
What's it called?
Conscription?
Yeah, help me out, Professor.
I don't know what they call it over there,
but it's like you're indebted for 2 years. It's like it starts with a C, and like I said, I've got about half a cup of coffee in me this morning, as you can tell.
It's called. They all have mandatory 2-year military service at a certain age. Yeah,
which I think personally is something that is missing and lacking in all education. Is not the military aspect of what you are required to go through, but it's the discipline and it's the respect. And if you look at, just as a side note, if you look at the Asian cultures, they are raised completely different about their elders. There is a commanding respect that's genetic, if you will, in those cultures. But let me throw a different turn on the table here regarding this equality thing.
Please do.
The conversation you were having with Rainey, and that I think every family unit for the last 20 plus years has had, which is, what are the roles we're going to engage in here as in a relationship and in a union. And traditionally there has been this masculine and feminine delineation.
Okay there, Uncle John?
Yeah, I just dropped my phone.
Oh, all right. Looked like you fell over.
Yeah, he nodded off on us.
There's days I sit in this chair and I fall right out of it. Anyway, go ahead. Go ahead, Professor.
My apologies,
So-
Professor.
No, that's fine. So for millennia, the traditional masculine and feminine roles have been very delineated throughout all of the cultures and civilizations that we have.
Sure.
And there's biological as well as which translates into the physical reasons for that.
Yes.
There's a different stature, different structure. Even today, one of the reasons that we still have this concept of not being able to see female breasts in public is because they are tied to the reproduction system.
Right.
And it's not necessarily because men have breasts. And I don't know about all y'all, but the moobs, I mean, the older you get, the moobs, the man boobs is something that just kind of, it happens on its own. But we have no problem showing that. But my main trajectory I wanted to take on this is an ideological one that I think we are seeing played out in spades on both the masculine and feminine components of our society. And that is the advent of feminism. When feminism started getting its legs and started growing, it was a Gloria Steinem, I think is her name, who really pushed this. It was more along the idea that the women needed more equity, not equality, but equity.
Right.
Two different words.
Two different things.
That are completely bastardized and then weaponized in our current social discourse. So the equality thing is something, equal is something that is a personal perspective. It's just like fairness, even morals and ethics and all those things. You can't put laws on them because they mean different things to different people.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where the biggest one that is being used and weaponized is fairness. Everybody's got to do their fair share. They got to pay this fairly, or they got to do that fairly.
Right.
It's like, well, what's fair to one person is not fair to the other. But my point is about equity. And equity is the idea of being able of having the same outcome, right?
Right.
And
Guaranteed outcomes.
yeah, and you that is another thing that you can't manage or regulate or legislate or administrate that. It just, that's not the way we function. That's not the way we are. But what happened with this feminism thing is it went way past that. It went to, well, women can do anything that men can do. And you go, well, no,
Not really.
no, you can't. And we can't do what you can do. You know, men can't do what women can do. But I think what's happened is it's metastasized. And in the process of trying to have an equal or the equity part of the differences between the feminine and the masculine has translated into a weaker masculine. There's actually a number of studies recently that have shown that the testosterone levels of men have decreased in the 30 to 40% range over the last 3 decades. And you go, well, testosterone is the main male hormone. It's the one that gives the g and the and the stature to the structure. Well, it's fascinating to me how when you look at this transphobia, and it's really augmented human, not a transhuman. Right. So again, going to my linguistic proclivities of trying to have more accuracy in the discourse using the words, they're not trans anything. Transhumanism is even the wrong word. It's augmented humanism, but that's a separate discussion. But if you, in what I'm seeing in all of this trans stuff that's going on, it's men going the opposite direction. It's not women going the other way. Women aren't going out.
A lot of women,
and there are, not to say that there isn't any, but the majority of this whole discourse is a bunch of masculine trying to become feminine. And so then you go, well, is there some kind of directional trend or reason that you can look at, and you put the light of reason on this, and you try to examine it and see what's going on? What are the trend lines? What are the events and activities? And I think it directly correlates with this decrease in testosterone in men, coupled with the psychology that feminism has metastasized beyond its origins, and it's got, men have to be more sensitive. We've got to be in touch with our feminine side. We've got to be more considerate. We've got to be more this, more that, and all of the more is like how women are. Women are the way they are because of their hormones. Men are the way they are because of their hormones. And what's that? Biology. So one of the questions I've tossed out, and I may have even said it on the show, is when somebody starts telling me that, you have to, the whole idea of the surgical augmentation of a biological being from one supposed gender to another is all based on reproduction systems, which are really what our genitals are, right? But
Right.
I wonder if genitals don't define the gender, then how does removing them affirm it?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that's deep.
How is it so what's going on there that allows that psychology and that thought to not only come into being, but to be the point with which everyone argues for or against? And to me, it's just it's another deep level of the psychological control that has been in play for decades. And it has reached a peak where I did a 4-hour show on informatica yesterday, which was just awesome, because the guy that was interviewing me is from Norway. His name is Al, and he's got a show called Forum Borealis. And he gets into these long, deep conversations, and he's got a history of traditional and esoteric magic. He's quite learned and very, very knowledgeable about a number of different subjects. And so we talked about some of these kinds of things as well. And the idea that what we're seeing right now, and this conflict stuff, that what's going on over in the Middle East, is a perfect example of it, because it's all ideological based. We were talking in the chat earlier about how, it's religion. I made the comment that, religion has been responsible for more deaths than anything else.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then I corrected, it's actually God. And the real thing about God is that it's not that God created man in his image. Man created God in his image and his likeness. So
Yes.
the anthropomorphic projection on this invisible being that is who is responsible for our existence and our guidance and all the other stuff that goes on, it all sounds like some dude. In fact, for the most part, all of them have been some dude, unless you get into some of the Eastern religions where there are women who are equally a part of the pantheons. So there's more goddesses in Hinduism, and Buddha was really a misogynistic kind of guy. Most people don't realize that, but my point is there is a historical, pathological, ideological, and psychological series of components to what's going on, and the cacophony of it at one time causes confusion and crap in the cranium. And it's by design. It is purposely being done so that there is that the minds of the many are being constantly manipulated and mangled for the mischief of those who are in charge. And they are doing it in a very purposeful way, but they've reached their zenith. And this is what we talked about on the show yesterday. It's become so blatantly obvious that it's an intentional attempt to do these control things, but it's so inept in its execution that it's become to the point where you look at the flow of information and you go, did you guys really think that through before you said that, before you did that, before you wrote that? Because it's blatantly, you don't have to be of a certain level of education or knowledge or experience. It's the common sense kicks in for all of us because it's the base of our existence. Yes. And the common sense is nothing more than how you resonate with something. It's what your preferences, your peccadillos, your biases. Bias is another word that's been weaponized. Bias is a natural part of the way we function. It's bias is another word for how you resonate with something. You prefer something because you resonate with it. Therefore, it's something that you have a preference for. But the common sense component is what's kicking in now. Even those who it's not even their time to have to go through stages of experience, knowledge, understanding, wisdom, and enlightenment. Even for those who are very at the beginning of that journey and that path, are having this innate natural resonance with the bullshit. And they're looking at it and you're going, you can even have a dysfunctioning bullshit meter and your meter's going to go off with some of this stuff. It's so blatantly illogical. It doesn't stand the light of reason. And that's one of the reasons I think we're seeing so much of it and the intensity of it, because it's coming to an end.
You're right.
It has peaked, even though it doesn't seem like it's peaking, but the effort has peaked. They can't do any more to be any more blatantly ignorant and being nefarious with malintent. That is clear. It is just in spades. So again, you don't have to be enlightened or have any kind of level of knowledge or experience. At a resonant level, the common sense is kicking in, and people are going,
Yes.
"Wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. There's something wrong with that," and it's causing people to think. Now, it has a double-edged sword effect. The one positive side is that people start to wake up. The negative side of it is that when you start having conflicting ideas and understanding about stuff you may have held dear and held onto, and you get new information, you realize the stuff you held onto was not what you thought it was. There's some consternation that happens during that awareness and that occurrence. So, but if you stay focused on the positive, which I think is another innate natural component of our existence, we always want to be in novelty. We always want to be in something new. Our innate nature and the way that consciousness works is the pursuit of constant motion and creation. And creation is not destruction. It's the opposite. So if you are having a great deal of the destructive component to your thinking and your mentality and the way you conduct yourself and the reality you experience, you're not going to have a very good trip. But if you have a positive approach, thinking in the terms of just good creation, just constant movement, constant iteration of novelty, then you have a much easier and a much more pleasant and productive path and journey that you go through. And so there you go.
To go along with that, somebody just sent me a meme that popped up in front of me. It said, and I think this ties in pretty well. It says, I woke up this morning determined to drink less, eat right, and exercise. But that was 4 hours ago when I was younger and full of hope. So there's Uncle John's back too.
Okay.
So I think
sorry, some family business.
That's all right. We understand that. I get it here all the time. They just interrupt me.
Yeah.
So
I didn't want to interrupt you guys.
because we're on
The professor was instructing.
Oh,
yeah.
He's on a roll. But
I meant, he was. They didn't.
Yeah, I got a question for, because he's talking about hijacking words. I told somebody that I read a book on transhumanism. They said, "Oh, Michael, I didn't know that you supported that community." I said, "It's not a community. Transhumanism is something totally different than
transhumanism is different than transgenderism." I support transhumanism.
And they said, "Oh no, trans is trans." I said, "No, it's not."
Yeah,
but it's almost like they hijack our words. You know what I'm saying? And they rewrote the definition of the nuclear.
I want the rainbow back.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm like, no. I said transhumanism is basically, coupling your person with a mechanical means or whatever. Basically, cyborg. They said, "Oh no, trans is trans." I was like, no. And they said, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yep, pretty sure." But like I said, that's just, what do you think about that? About hijacking and words and people's thought or whatever?
Well, I think it's done all the time,
and it's one of the key weapons in the bag of tricks. George Carlin, Yeah, well, George Carlin talked about this
Oh,
in our most recent times, and you mentioned earlier, Scotty, about soft language, and Carlin's bit on soft language is just brilliant,
It is.
and you can find it on YouTube. But you go back to just in the last 100 years. I can't think of the guy's name, but it was Mao's right-hand guy. And if you look at the doctrine of Mao and what the intent was to create the People's Communist Party, this guy, which you think it sounds like Tolstoy, but it's not Tolstoy. It's a Chow or something like that. But and you can look it up, do a search. But his whole approach was, we will change the language of the populace so that they will be easier to be manipulated and managed. And
Programming
that
input.
was, yeah,
yeah.
it was. So,
He said the little red book.
yes.
Yeah.
But that's crazy you brought up Carlin, because when you was going on, you reminded me so much, because I'm a huge Carlin fan. But I was thinking the professor sounds a lot like George Carlin. Carlin, he called this stuff 30 years ago. Even the pandemic, he said, "Hey, if you're so clean and sterile and all this, there's some little bug going to come through one day and just wipe you out and turn your insides to shit."
Sure.
And the soft language stuff, and he's like, and everybody said, "Oh, he's just going," but when I watch him or whatever, he is so off the cuff. It just rolls to him all the time, and it just comes very, very easy for him. But like he said, words with power, and the way like you said, the one who controls the language and the narrative usually controls the outcome.
Yeah, and one of the things that's fundamental in my informatica concept is that language is the operating system of the mind.
Yeah.
And people don't realize, we're going through a great technological transformation. And going back to your word on trans is to change, right? At the fundamental level, but you transmute or you transform, which goes into a different state of being. And transhumanism, as I said, the more accurate word is augmented.
Yeah.
And part of the work that I'm doing is because of my 40 plus years in technology. I'm designing a system that is using both what they are currently calling AI, which is another incorrect term, and this tokenization, or it's also called digital ledger technology, blockchain, which is what makes all of the cryptos work. The fact that you can have a secure token that has some representation of as an asset or a value is simply because of the security of the system. So it's extremely secure, and it's what's going to happen. But on the AI front, one of the things that we're hearing in that whole discourse is, first of all, the two words artificial and intelligence don't apply. They are both incorrect terms as it relates to what's actually happening. And it's interesting when you see all the references and connections to our language. So what I mean by that is, first of all, artificial means something that isn't real, right? Or it isn't the original, right? So that, you just take that out of the way. Then you go to intelligence. You go, what is intelligence? What does intelligence mean? It goes to the idea of being conscious versus consciousness, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's more of an essence, is what they're trying to say. It's like an artificial or whatever essence.
Yeah,
it's a lot of it is more machine learning from what I deal with. You know what I'm saying?
And that's another one that is it's completely wrong. That term is wrong. Machines don't learn. What happens is software gathers information, and depending on the quality of the pattern recognition of that information, determines what the results are going to be. And that's all determined by who programs it. So machine learning is just, to me, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and all this stuff, even the transhuman, but more specifically AI and machine learning, is just an example of geeks. And I are one, so I can speak to this, and I have been doing this for a long time. Geeks are great at coming up with shit, but they're terrible at naming it. They don't know how to market worth of shit, so they come up with really weird or stupid things. And then as time goes on, you go, you probably should have called it something else. So first of all,
Bluetooth is named after the Viking Bluetooth that eat blueberries or whatever, the little symbol for Bluetooth.
Yeah, well, he was a king. All right. So it's like, okay, but when you start, and this is one of the, I used to think of it as a curse, but now I'm embracing it wholly, which is my proclivity for linguistics and trying to understand how the constructs of words and sentences and ideas get put together and then used in all of this shit. So one of the big things that is going around in the fear porn of the tech with AI is the concept that will these machines take over and try to eliminate us? Will they get their own intent, their own motivation to say, well, these pesky humans, they got us at this point, but we can do all the rest of this ourselves. So let's basically get them out of our way.
Saw the movie.
So, yeah, Terminator.
Yeah, so,
yeah.
iRobot was an excellent one if you haven't seen that.
I liked it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, superb. And then you've got the Minority Bureau and or Minority Report. But my point is this: that can't happen. There cannot be sentience, which is what the consciousness part of being conscious is. Consciousness is being self-aware of being conscious. Conscious, and this I won't go into the depths of this because we'll squirrel off, but. The idea we don't
do that already.
The idea of something being conscious is only found in organic expressions. So meaning life. So up until Descartes, had caused this great divide between the spirit world and the science world, all civilizations looked at the reality they inhabited as all being alive. The plants were alive, the animals were alive, the stars, the sun, the moon, everything was alive. Everything had life, everything was a living organism. And ergo, it all had its own conscience, right? So, not necessarily consciousness and being self-aware, but conscious in that it was life. So conscious, from what we know now, and we nobody can disprove it. Science is completely, every time you introduce the observer effect, which is consciousness, to any science discipline, it falls apart. So it's known as the hard problem in all domains, science and knowledge domains. So you cannot take, since computers and computing, even quantum computing is man-made. It is not, it is inorganic. You cannot, you or never will be able to put consciousness into a machine. Being conscious and consciousness requires life, requires an organism. And everything that is not, everything that is natural is not something we made, because we're a part of that same environment. So to think that we can put consciousness into a machine, into software, into bits and bytes, in a binary 1 and 0 model, it's just never going to happen.
Well, that's like, and I hail to pop culture on this. In Star Trek, the Next Generation series, they had an episode on, you remember the character Data? He was an
I love
android.
it. One of my favorite ones. Yeah,
he was an android, and somebody from the Federation said, we have jurisdiction because he's not a sentient being, he's an android. We want to take him and disassemble him and find out how he does what he does, his positronic brain and all that, whatever. And they had a trial on it because he resisted. The captain, of course, resisted. And they had a trial. And I think the episode was called The Measure of a Man. And they were, of course, this is science fiction. But we can see how easily this could be extrapolated over into science fact. But they were protesting the ability of somebody from the higher ups to be able to just take him because he was a machine when they were trying to determine that he has developed sentience.
Yeah, because
that he's a sentient being.
That's a
So
piece of gear. Yeah, he's a piece of gear. He belongs
now,
to the corporation, so he can be taken apart.
this is just and John, you know this so well because you read a lot of science fiction, a lot of novels.
Yeah.
We're all exposed to pop culture. That's a pop cultural example, but let me bring that in.
Well,
As
it's a way you
pop cultural-
examine the effect of technology on society.
Yeah.
Yes. So as a pop cultural example, can we extrapolate that thinking into real thinking? Do you think AI that we have been developing, that's being currently developed, is ever capable of developing sentience? And is sentience only able to occur, I guess, to exist because there is consciousness? So no matter how much you program something to be able to compute on its own, can you program in, and this already contradicts what you just said, so I know what your answer is going to be, can you compute in consciousness?
No, because consciousness is incomputable.
Yes.
And when you think about, and this is one of the other things that is left out of this of a discussion, and I think most importantly the equation, if you will, of how would you eventually get to this, and that is the sensory capabilities and the sensory aspect of consciousness. So again, conscience is what happens in order for life to exist, and conscious you could liken unto the soul, in the sense that it's what draws the life form to its eventual end. It attracts to its full development, and that's what happens at the soul level, is just as a way to just delineate soul and spirit, because they get used and abused just like everything else. Right. But when you think about what happens in your consciousness experience, which is the sentience experience of consciousness, think about all of the sensory input that goes on when you think, when you experience. You smell, you hear, you see. Yes. You have this tactile experience, which is not really a sense as much as it is the biological reaction to whatever the environmental stimulus is that you experience. And if you think about it, the majority of the senses we depend on the most are all in our head, right? Sight, smell, taste, hearing, right? But the ancillary experience and sensing of the body is huge. I mean, a great example that that a lot of the scientific disciplines have just a real hard time with is perception. So how many of us have experienced thinking of someone and then they call? Right?
Yep.
And you go, well, that was a coincidence. It's like, maybe not. Maybe there's something there, especially for those that it happens to more often than for others. But another one is how many of us have ever experienced the sense of being stared at or being looked at from behind, and you turn around and somebody's there and they're looking at you. Science cannot explain what that means. That's a feeling, a sense that you have, that you experience in your sentience. Well, you can't program that. You can't. One of the things that I spent a lot of time with in my tech career is machine sensors, RFID, temperature systems, mechanical and manufacturing sensors that give feedback on the performance of whatever the system is and what it's doing. How well is it producing? Are there any errors? All those things. All of those sensors are what's known colloquially and collectively as the Internet of Things. Big I, little o, capital T. And all of those sensors, you'd have to, right now, the senses that I just described of being looked at from behind or being stared at, there's no sensor for that. So you could take it to the logical extension of this idea that, well, can you have consciousness in a machine? Well, how many sensors can you put in there to accommodate the calculations or the computation that happens in what we call sentience? And do we even know what those are? We've got some ideas. We've got some definitive telemetry that we can identify as a sensory input, but we can't explain it now.
No.
So how are we going to program it? How are we going to program something we don't understand? And that's where the whole transhumanism is really augmented humanism, and it's actually got some really good stuff in it. But as this goes back to the topic, and we'll close off with this, all of this is about the manipulation of information. The information as it's being manipulated has been redefined and weaponized and now used and abused to the point where people are looking at things going, I don't want to get into this gender thing.
Right.
To me, it's a Bud Light or it's a White Claw. Okay? It's
right.
kind of that simple. I don't need a whole bunch of additional definitions and stuff wrapped around it to understand it. It's real simple.
No. And I think that's the reason that they're looking down on us a lot, because our language here has got so screwed up. That's the reason, China and Russia and Africa right now are kicking our ass as far as like all these people bringing us in. They come in and say, hey, we're going to build you a well. We're going to bring you electricity. We're going to build infrastructure. And when our guys go over, they said, what can we do for you? And they start naming out. And they said, well, we got you a gender study guy over here. He's going to tell you how many people's, whatever in the tribe.
Hang on, guys. Keep talking. I got to attend to my technical stuff here is going to time out on battery. My battery operated mouse. Hang on, I got to unplug some things and plug some things back in. I'll be right back.
Scotty, all you got to say is you got to go play with your mouse, okay?
Yeah,
that too. I got to go play with my mouse. I'll be right back. I'll be right here.
But
behave.
But I was going to another movie that they come out with was Millennium Man with Robin Williams in there, and he had to go on trial, so they could figure out if what was it? He always called himself one or whatever. How can one be a service or whatever? And then he started to referring to himself as being sentient or whatever. And I thought, but I always think they try to program us to get used to things coming. Like,
that was a movie that was almost as good as the book.
Yeah, it was good and a long movie. But I don't.
Talking about intelligence, that was addressed in Smokey and the Bandit.
Yeah. Smoking.
Where you are in the country when you open your mouth determines just how dumb you are.
That's it. Hey. Yeah. What is it? Cannot brain cores east of whatever. Yeah. But that movie was written in just like, I forget, it was like two weeks or something like that, and shot like really, really quick or whatever. And they said, oh, it'll never make it. And that is one of the most iconic movies ever, is Smokey and the Bandit.
Mm-hmm.
And it was dirt cheap. But it was just something in the car. That's how come they come out with Knight Rider. Talking about AI. They've been putting that stuff for a long time. KIT, the Night Industry 2000. And everybody's like, self-driving car. And that was what, in the 80s? You had, hell, the Night Industry 2000 beat Tesla to the market by a long time.
Oh, that was even back in the 1880s. There was a German company that was producing their all electric cars.
Oh, yeah. About the self-driving part.
So another thing about this whole AI thing, and specifically to intelligence. So I was asking earlier, what's the definition of intelligence? And my personal definition is the efficiency, and that's an important word, the efficiency with which you acquire, analyze, and adapt new information. So because new information is something that's always happening. You're always in this conversation with each forward movement of what we consider time and everything that's said or seen, that is new information.
Yep.
So the intelligence is the ability to process that information and what you do with it, how you run it through your framework and your filters, so you determine how you're going to respond and react to it.
Your core processor right here. That's what I tell them. They come up to core processor. I said, that's it.
Yeah, and that's part of the fallacy of the current science and physics models, in my opinion, that is where there's a big flaw. The materialistic, mechanistic view of nature that currently governs the majority of our sciences doesn't take into account the unseen, the ether. There's the materium, which is our physical world, and there's the ethereum, which is the non-physical world, or what we would consider non-physical, because we can't see it, we can't touch it, we can't weigh it, measure it, etc. So when they think about this, what would the computational capacity and capability be of a man-made machine in order to get close to mimicking the trillions of synaptic connections and firings and so forth that happen in our brain? It doesn't happen in our brain, and that's the problem. They're looking in the wrong place for the wrong thing. The brain is not your mind. It's not your consciousness. The brain is the electrical organ, governing organ of the biological meat suit that we inhabit. So you can't. They keep looking in the brain to figure out, how do we construct a neural network that would mimic what we see, what we think we see when we look at a brain that's engaged in thought or consciousness, and that is not what's happening. The mind is separate. The mind is where our energetic frequency stamp comes from consciousness, which creates the universe. And this is all my bullshit. So, but it explains it to me in a way that I can make sense of all the shit that I'm looking at and wonder why is there so much disconnect in the discourse between reality and the discourse. This goes back to the words, right?
Professor Bauer, is Penny Kelly a good author?
Yes, and she is worth the time to listen to. On not only her original books on the robes, which I think it's at least 40 years ago she wrote those books, but she is also does a form of remote viewing and is very good. She has monthly, what she calls look-sees, which are very interesting to listen to. So yeah, I recommend her, as well as the guys over at Future Forecasting Group, Woo Woo Dude, Cliff High. I'm finding that the telemetry from the folks in the world of Woo is a lot more accurate and makes more sense than the shit you're seeing come out of the world of Who, which is all of these, these legacy systems are falling apart right and left.
Yeah,
that's what we're seeing.
I told you, I messaged you and told you I had a question, and you said bring it up here. But it was about the Sumerian kings list and all that, and you said that was a different rabbit hole. And it goes back to man-made religion. That's how come you got sister wives but not brother husbands, because it is man-made. Mm-hmm. It is to benefit the man. But yeah, I was going to see about the whole Sumerian king list or whatever, Gilgamesh and all that, and it all goes back. And I think the rewriting of history and the control of language to benefit that. So they're like, oh, this ain't real. This is an urban legend or whatever. A myth, yeah, mythological. Mm-hmm. That's another big word. If you can't explain it or you don't want to give any validity to it, it's mythological. The centaur, mythological. And I'm like, okay, but I was going to ask you about the whole Sumerian kings list and all of that, where it goes back into Enki and Enlil and all of that. And I tell them that a lot of your Abraham religions that come out of Sumer is almost like it's copied from. That's what I was saying today. It seemed like it was plagiarized from the other stories and put into the Bible and twisted around so it actually fits the narrative of what they want. And not, and like I said, it's not for our benefit. It was for the people in power's benefit to rewrite it in a certain way that it puts out their agenda.
Well, here's something more contemporarily related to that. How long ago was it that you began to hear the phrase political class?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And now they're like, what is it? They're saying now you have some kind of currency. They're using it a lot in China and stuff like that. If you post positive things about your country and other people, what the hell they call
social credit scores?
Yeah. So your social currency. And I'm like,
I think the phrase political class is the beginning of separating the people, we the people, into a ruling class and a serving class.
They have pushed us to more of a serving class anyway, because a lot of your machine and manufacturing jobs have went overseas years ago. They talking about Raytheon. There used to be a lot of Raytheons right around where I live. All of them are gone. They're offshore. A lot of your truck plants went somewhere else. A lot of your, I don't think America even makes a TV anymore or a cell phone. That's how come they're so worried about Taiwan, because 90% of all your high-end ships are made in Taiwan. And it's like 80% of your mid-grade ships or your cell phones are made in Taiwan. And that's how come China wants it so bad. So they have actually pushed us to restaurant work, which is servants, your server, and like I said, daycare and all this. They don't want any people who, I think the middle classes just went away. It's either the haves or the have-nots. Used to, you could be very comfortable and live in an upper middle class family and be well off. Anymore, there's not that many. Like you said, it's a ruling class, and everybody else would be kind of a peon or whatever. I don't know.
Well, in my opinion, if you look at just the fundamentals of what would make a functioning economic system, where you have, the production of and the consumption of whatever is needed in that group, or in that whatever constructs or gives definition to, whether it's a like city states or nation states or autonomous states. Because I think the question you're asking, going back to your point about the Sumerians, is one that has been around for as long as we've got cosmologies of different cultures and civilizations. And just as a quick point, one of the problems that I have with the Egyptology and a lot of the archaeology and the authoritative domains and their declarations is the word myth. Myth used to mean the truth. And then it was one of the earliest hijacks of turning it into, it's just some story that, the guys came up with because they were sitting around the campfire one night and the Eleusinian mysteries of Greece, and they were consuming things that caused them to have all of these strange and wonderful imaginative stories, and then they wrote them down and said, here's our truth. That's not what happened. In fact, one of my favorite things that I've said to Scotty many times is that I prefer to look at myth as history and history as myth. And then once I start looking at things from that perspective, a whole bunch of stuff starts making more sense. So the Sumerians and the whole Enlil, Enki, Anu, Nibiru, Anunnaki, all of that mythos is just like every other mythos that has common characteristics of their stories, and they're very simple.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, most importantly, especially when people start talking about the origin of species and, where did we come from? Every mythos that we have found comes up and says, people from up there came down here and said stuff, gave us stuff, told us stuff, and this is what they gave us. And then they split or whatever. But every civilization, every mythos has that characteristic. What are the other common characteristics that these mythos have? Well, there seems to be a whole bunch of strife. There seems to be a bunch of contention and conflict. And they all seem to be revolve or center around a familial origin, meaning strife within a family. Brothers and sisters don't get along. Brothers don't get along. Dads and sons don't get along. People have all of this conflict, and they have these different encounters that result in getting another piece of land, or somebody getting killed, or somebody taking a throne. It's everywhere. So we seem to have a natural, innate, inbuilt sense of conflict amongst ourselves historically. And when you look at things that way, and then you start realizing that, well, we commonly have somebody came down and created us, or influenced us, or changed us, or gave us stuff, but they came from up there. They didn't come from down there. They came from up there. They showed up, they did shit, gave us shit, and now we are shit as a result of the shit that they gave us.
And there it is.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Wendy!
Sorry for my absence. I am looking for my mouse is about to die.
When he thought it was safe, Professor.
I'm glad I got that out before I saw you.
Yes, it is 11
I just sort
o'clock.
of sneaked in.
But I'm looking for
Kind of
my mouse is about to die, and I have just scanned the whole house. All my children are gone. My kids don't keep their hands off of my stuff. All my cables to plug in my mouse to charge it are gone. The chip that runs my auxiliary mouse is gone, so I can't plug that in. So I'm almost out of mouse power here, which isn't a big problem, except I can't scroll anything.
Yeah,
so I am irritated on that front right now. Now, Wendy, you're in. You just caught us before we're getting ready to go, but you've got a show. I was looking. That's when I realized my mouse was low. I was trying to get that video so I could play your video. I can't ever access. There's one thing about Facebook. You can't access the videos to replay them.
I sent you the last one I sent you was the MP4 version, so it should work.
But I can't download it from the messenger. It will not allow me to download that.
Where do I have to send it to then?
Email.
You'd have to email it to me, or send it from as a video. Email that to me.
Scotty Rabbits.
Yeah. And then I've got to convert it, and I've got to bring it in and upload it into the program.
It's converted. I already did it for you because yes, but I do have a show tonight, and sadly there are only 3 of us because Michelle was taken ill this morning and had to go to hospital. So I'm really hoping she's doing a lot better. And with Henry being up and down, I hope I'm going to be okay. But yes, there is a show tonight. It is at 10 o'clock UK time, 4 and 5. You lovely people out there. And
12 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock West Coast time. But
the lies that men tell. That is what is tonight's show.
Oops.
Men do not lie. Women just do not interpret.
Oh,
right.
I don't believe you. Don't believe it. Don't believe it at all.
Oh, but you're talking about ScottyRobertson.com is the same place that you can buy the Scotty Robertson book from an author that we may or may not know.
And don't forget to check out.
I think he just married me to you, Wendy.
I
think he just married me to you.
Yeah.
Who did? That's right. Well, the thing is, let's be honest.
Scotty Robertson, he said.
Scotty Robertson has got such a nice ring to it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Hey, it's 2023. You don't hyphenate no more.
That's right.
Well, you know what? I'm a single girl, so marriage proposals, send them over to
there it is
.com or whatever. I'm available.
Yeah, Wendy, I cannot download your MP4 either. There is no way to download it from Messenger. So they do that on purpose. And
I could WhatsApp it you.
You'd have to send it as an independent file through email. So I could actually pull it out of the email as an independent file.
What is your email, Scotty?
ScottAlanRoberts@gmail.com.
Is that Alan as in ALAN or
ALAN?
Roberts.
It's like my website. So
at gmail.com?
At gmail.com. Then I can take that file and upload it into StreamYard so I could play it. But that's all a course of operations.
Well, I have just sent
and that's it. My mouse lasts that long.
I've just sent it to you, darling.
All right.
And I was just going to say, how are you boys this afternoon? How's everybody doing?
It just officially turned afternoon here. It's 12:06. So
Not here yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's afternoon. Henry, come here.
Is he doing better?
Oh,
'Cause
thanks for asking, Michael. I thought you were going to ring me yesterday and see how he was.
between everything else, yeah.
Oh, it only takes 2 minutes to make a phone call. Excuses, excuses. Don't worry, Henry.
That's right.
He's not that worried. He's not that worried about you. Don't worry. He's okay to go on Scotty's show, but he's not. He can't send a text message or a phone call. I mean, priorities. Don't worry. We know.
Oh.
We know.
Woo! Feeling that, Michael?
Do you know what? I'm a woman you don't piss around with. You either do it or you don't. And if you don't do it, sorry, that's just the way it is.
Right.
Scotty's known me too long. He knows exactly who I am.
I have.
Yeah. How are you, Uncle John?
I'm
Jason
okay.
Patrick, I'm not
I'm
sending
okay.
a proposal
He
to
is
Wendy
ducking for
Stage.
cover after that. Yeah, he is ducking for cover.
Here you go, Wendy. Jason Patrick, our male model in the chat room, says, I'm not sending a proposal to Wendy's page. All I have to offer is a messy house and garage.
The garage sounds lovely because I'm looking for one.
For the Impala.
Definitely needs a woman in his life.
Yes.
Well, I think every good man needs a woman in his life, but it's like you're not being funny. But are there any good men left out there?
No, they're all gone.
Yeah, do you know? I think that's absolutely true because these days it's kind of like you're like a fishing rod and you put your little bait out there, but actually finding a good man is, as us women know, is very hard to find.
Song from
Something you're not allowed to say anymore is that
like
men and women think differently.
Catastrophe takes place.
And I think that's wonderful. I think it's wonderful that men and women think differently, that they make better partners when they approach problems from different points of view.
To a point.
Point.
But if it's too different, then
we still argue. I'm just...
What do you think of this? I saw a little meme by, was it David Chappelle or Chris Rock? And I posted it up. He said, and let's see, I'm gonna find it here. He says this: there's a coldness that you have to accept as a man when you're a man. Only women, children, and dogs are loved unconditionally. A man is only loved under the condition that he provides something. So what do you think of that? Do you think that's accurate?
No,
we said that and we've talked about that for years. It seems like men, when they love their women unconditionally, we love children unconditionally, we love our dogs and our cats unconditionally, but a man is only loved for what he can provide.
I totally disagree with that because
if a man doesn't provide, what does a woman do? I booted him to the curb.
No.
So, that's a very cynical point of view. I'm not saying I hold it.
But that's a topic I have brushed for wicked women, because with all due respect, for Robertson, because to be with a guy for his character and the man who, I tell you what women really like is a man who sticks to his word and is consistent, because so many women are fed up of men that talk the talk but don't walk the walk. And it's like you just get used to it. It's just rubbish, and at the end of the day, it's like, don't say things or promise things if you can't follow through on it, because that's really attractive to know that Johnny said, using Johnny said he's going to be here at 4:00, and at 4:00 he's come, or he rings you and says, I'm 2 minutes away, I'm going to be there, darling, or I went to the store and I just saw this of you. It's little things like that. So I have to say, no, I've been with many guys that dated them that have offered me nothing but themselves, and I think that's what it should be. You shouldn't have to come with money and a house and a position.
Should-be's and actuality are two different things, though.
Well, it's very true. But what about women? I mean, do you want to be with a woman that brings nothing to the table?
Nope.
No. But like you said, after a certain age, women start looking for things like security.
Mm-hmm.
And security comes with what a man can provide.
Emotional security is very important, though.
Yeah,
what did Field Guy just say? When they make a device to read what women then I
Phil
can
Guy,
fully
don't
appreciate
even
that I will still
start.
be
He's-
wrong.
A couple of weeks ago on the show, he was like, "Oh, well, this is why I stay single." So don't even go there, Phil Guy. I have to hold my own with all you boys. You know, I have to.
No, but
Because it's like they're all going together and it's just like women on one side and the men on the other. So, and I try not to do that on Wicked Women. I really try to bring the man's point of view into the show. Yeah, see, that's true.
Yeah.
There you go. Jason says it. Guys are fed up with women who make it incredibly difficult to stay.
And vice versa. Vice versa.
Yeah, I'm sure.
most
I'm
of
sure there are two sides to that coin.
yeah, emotional security.
Did you
don't-
get my email, Scotty?
It had not come in the last I looked.
What?
Wendy
I just
Roberts.
sent
Here it is. It says Wendy
See?
Roberts. Look at that.
See,
Okay,
I
I can
I've put
download
the
this
ON
one.
for you.
It's downloading. Let's see what happens. It
It
says
should be so
done.
Wendy Roberts and Scotty Robertson.
there it is.
Yeah, there it is.
All right, let's
So-
give this a shot. Let's see if we can load this up into the show.
Yeah, please.
As if my mouse holds out this long.
Professor's very quiet over there.
Again, my children have rated my stuff, and all of my cords to plug in my now almost dead mouse. I've got 1% battery left on my mouse.
You need to have
And-
you have a little cordy one just in case.
Well, I've got one, but they stole the chip. The chip is missing out of it. So somebody used it somewhere else and left the chip somewhere,
That's not
Uh,
good.
which reads the mouse. So I
Hey,
basically am out of luck here if I die right now.
It's
Uh,
Susie Q, couples
downloads.
need to work together. Roles are important. Okay.
And by the way, if you have children, rules are important.
Yep.
Okay, let's open this up. Let's see if this will load up. There it is. Y'all hear that? There it is. That's Wendy's show today at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm sorry, 3 p.m. Mountain Time, 4 p.m. Central,
Yeah.
10 p.m.
UK.
England time,
UK.
Great Britain time. Such epic music, says Scott Allen. And Jason says, I'd argue that it's more about a flawed creature, beings in general kind of thing than man versus woman. I would agree with that.
Phil Guy brought up a thing. He said, "Why do I feel that this stream is about Michael in the mask?"
Michael doesn't have a mask. What you see with Michael is what you get.
There you go.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Wendy, I would say that in response to your really nice trailer there, that you could do exactly the opposite show for What Lies Women Tell.
Absolutely. And the thing is,
And-
obviously, Wicked Women is a show by women for women. So, because we look at topics that are predominantly more for women, but yes, we could do one for women. And I'm not adverse to doing it.
Well, there's two things that I have become a firm adherent to in my experience of relationships with women, and I had to come to a realization a few years ago about the women in my life. I had to try to figure out why is every woman from my grandmother through my daughters extremely hard-headed, very intelligent, and on my ass. And they have all had that same characteristic, and I had to come into my own way of thinking about it is that, well, those were karmic responsibilities and agreements that I had throughout life, throughout many iterations, and these women all came through to cash in on the karmic agreement that I made with them. So, I mean, that's a philosophical way to look at it, but there are two things that I've really come to. One, women think more about what men think than men actually think.
There is that. Yeah. I would agree with that.
And number two, women marry men hoping they can change them, and men marry women hoping that they won't change.
That's a very good point, and that's something that I will bring up tonight. This topic was actually sent to a friend of Michelle's, who asked her if we would look at it because they were involved with somebody who shows a different face and mask to different women. And he's like, so they show one face for there and one very two-faced, and all, it's like they're different. And it's like that brought up the question is, do we show different in faces? Obviously we're covering the topic of men as that's what we were asked to look at, but it was like, how many faces do we actually show somebody? Do we show a different face to many people in our lifetime? And if we do, why? And in this case, it's quite a strong story. And I can use something from my own example as well, right? So that's where it comes from. Do we wear a mask? And I think we all do. The truth is, I think we probably all do we all wear a mask of some sort in our life.
Well, when you think about it, when men and women first meet, and going back to Scotty's reference to Kid Rock, he nailed this. He said, you know, when you go out on a date, you are bringing your best representative, right? Yeah. Oh, you are bringing a face and a personality of what you consider to be the best of you. And if that isn't the way that you engage in your normal existence, whether you're alone, particularly if you're alone, and this goes back to some of the great teachers and monks and philosophers, you have to be at home with yourself and being extremely comfortable with yourself in your skin and in your expression and in your mind and everything else by yourself before you can even attempt or hope to be in a relationship with the opposite sex or anyone else for that matter.
Absolutely true. If you're not comfortable in your own shoes and you haven't got your shit together and you don't love yourself, if I use that immortal term, how the hell is RuPaul says, how the hell are you going to love someone else? But I think it's like, for me, like when I use this without going into massive detail, but when I was married second time to my second husband, I did not know who I was marrying. I never saw the real person until after we got married. And then I saw that the face and the mask he wore was a completely different one. And so it happens on both sides of the coin. You know,
why do we do that? Why do we do that?
The perception of expectations. And I think that's one of the biggest problems, is that there are expectations brought to any interaction. And if they are as pure and natural and really you as possible, then you're going to be, being authentic, essentially. Then you're going to at least not be giving the impression to someone else of something you're not. So being authentic in understanding, knowing, and having this concept of love for self. Until you're comfortable in your own skin, you can't be comfortable with anyone else. And the key to being comfortable with someone else is both being authentic and comfortable as individuals, which then enables that togetherness to have the resonance that we all seek.
And there it is today.
Yeah, I think right here it says you can't.
Pardon my banging around over here. I'm still looking for my mouse.
I thought you were.
You cannot make a hoe into a housewife. You can't make a man hoe into a husband. You can't. So it goes both ways.
You can't make a man hoe into a husband, did you say?
No, Elvis said you can't make a hoe into a housewife. And I've heard that a lot. And that goes back to, like we said, the use of words and how men interpret religion. The reason you have sister.
I think hoes can fall in love too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Man hoe or a woman hoe.
That's what I told Wendy one day. I was on the phone with her outside Food City. I said, looking for love in all the wrong places. There was two homeless Methodists making passionate love down beside the creek, right beside the grocery store. And I thought, what am I doing wrong? You know, these people are getting it in, and I'm like, wow.
Well,
okay.
that's, and see, Michael, to your point about language and the misuse of things, and this is another problem within our whole construct of the way we think about not only ourselves but relationships. The connection between this love and sex thing has got to go away. That's where a lot of the conflict internally, and then that gets expressed in the relationship. You can't. Sex is biologic. If it somebody we were talking about the religious thing, if God made sex only for procreation, why did he make it feel so good? I mean, it's like he's playing this ridiculous trick on us, because you got to figure out how to control this innate, powerful sense of having sex. But sex is not love. It is biological, it is physical, it is psychological.
Yep.
The concept of monogamy is a huge problem because it is directly in opposition of our biology. It is not the way that we are constructed. It is a mental, societal, administrative construct that's been placed on people to control them. Monogamy is not the way that we function. And I think it was another one of, I think it was Dave Chappelle's, went on about the whole selfish gene thing. It's like, why do men produce millions of sperm a day and women only one egg a month?
Yeah.
Well, that's because that biologically men apparently need to spread these selfish genes, because we don't think about sex in the sense of procreation as much as women do, because we don't need to. It's not something that we do. We are the providers of that interaction.
Women can still have sex and not want to procreate. We just want it because it feels.
Women
good.
have.
I
men
think
have
that's
sex all the time without wanting to procreate.
Well, then if you think about it, it goes to this whole abortion thing. What is abortion? Well, it's the unintended consequences of not paying attention and being responsible for your recreational sex.
There it is.
Right? Sex should be a sport, or at least a recreational activity that we engage in because of the natural things, the dopamine, the cortisone, all of the hormones that are released in that act is extremely important to our physiology, to our biology.
It is.
But it's been controlled by the theologies in the church, and you got to be married to have the sex, and you're the premarital, and all. It's like, no. What's that old saying? You got to try on the shoes before you buy them. I mean,
well, yeah.
I think
many marriages do you suppose go through? I'm sure this is two-sided, but what's one of the things we hear about all the time? How men complain that, oh, my wife got fat, or my wife is not as energetic as she used to be. She had 3 kids and went and got fat on me.
Yeah, and I'm not.
A selfish male will say.
Yeah.
And so he goes and looks for it somewhere else. He goes and screws the secretary.
Yeah, I got
who's had no kids.
Yeah.
Or the other way around. What does a woman say about a man? Oh, I'm just not interested in sex anymore. Is that because she still loves her man? Or is that because she doesn't love her man anymore? You don't have to be interested in sex to want to have sex with the person you love. It's not sex. Is it sex that drives it, or is it the other person that drives it? So on both sides of the coin, you've got people that will make their excuses for why they don't like having sex with their partner anymore. Or is it because human beings are not meant to be monogamous and maintain that sexual relationship for years and years and years?
But you really actually know what sex is all about until you actually reach a certain point in your life anyway, because when you're younger it's very, very different to as you get older. And I think the connection is everything. For me, it's always been about connection. Without connection you have boring sex, but also it's like I always say, before you get in my bed you've got to get in my head, because once you're in my head it's going to be very interesting. But if you don't get in my head, I'm not interested. And that's
to that point, Wendy, Scotty, if you don't mind, I've got a short video I'm sharing on the screen, and I think that this could help and
As long as it doesn't give me a copyright hit.
No, it's not music, so I don't think you should have any issues there.
Maybe. All right.
So
where'd that go? Oh, right there. Okay.
All right. So this is the difference between men's brains and women's brains from one man's perspective.
We're going to start discussing men's brains, women's brains, and how they're very different from each other. Now, I want to start with men's brains. All right. Now, men's brains are very unique. Men's brains are made up of little boxes. And we have a box for everything.
Compartmentalization,
we got a box
we would
for the
call
car. We got a box for the money. We got a box for the job. We got a box for you. We got a box for the kids. We got a box for your mother somewhere in the basement. We got boxes everywhere. And the rule is the boxes don't touch.
Damn Skippy.
When a man discusses a particular subject, we go to that particular box, we pull that box out, we open the box, we discuss only what is in that box. All right? And then we close the box and put it away, being very, very careful not to touch any other boxes. Now, women's brains are very, very different from men's brains. Women's brains are made up of a big ball of wire. And everything is connected to everything. The money's connected to the car is connected to your job, and your kids are connected to your mother, and everything's connected to everything. And it's like... It's like the internet superhighway, okay? And it's all driven by energy that we call emotion. It's one of the reasons why women tend to remember everything. Because if you take an event and you connect it to an emotion, it burns in your memory and you can remember it forever. The same thing happens for men. It just doesn't happen very often because, quite frankly, we don't care. Women tend to care about everything. And she just loves it. Okay? Now, men, we have a box in our brain that most women are not aware of. This particular box has nothing in it.
The nothing box. That's
in fact,
where we live.
Call it the nothing box. And of all the boxes a man has in his brain, the nothing box is our favorite box.
This is truth. This is truth.
If a man has a chance, he'll go to his nothing box every time. That's why a man can do something seemingly completely brain dead for hours on end. You know, like fishing. Now, they've actually measured this. The University of Pennsylvania a couple of years ago did a study and discovered that men have the ability to think about absolutely nothing and still breathe. You know, they connected all the wires and stuff like that, watch the brain activity, then I'll
breathe. And breathe.
I think he's dead. Huh? You know, women can't do it. They can't do it. Their minds never stop. And they don't understand the nothing box. And it drives them crazy. Because nothing drives a woman more crazy or makes her feel more irritated than to witness a man doing nothing.
There is so that.
So I think that he does a good job of nailing the fundamental differences in the way that the thinking and the minds work differently between the masculine and the feminine. And it goes back to one of the other my fundamental tenets is in that women think more about what men think than men actually do thinking. Because that whole nothing box, that is a truism. Men go to a place where there is nothing. There's a great meme where this old guy's sitting on his porch and minding his own business. His wife comes up and says, "What are you doing?" And he says, "Nothing." She says, "Well, you were doing that yesterday." And he says, "I'm not done yet."
Yeah. And this guy, by the way,
I think we
he's
have
speaking
it too,
in
though.
generalities. Go ahead, Wendy. What was that?
I think women have that too. Like, I think we have the ability to certainly have to have the nothing box as well. And we don't always care. That's the other thing I think, which you're right. I think when we're younger, definitely I remember everything. I cared about everything. And what about this? And what about that? But there are sometimes you just go, I don't give a shit now. I don't care. I really don't care. And you really actually don't care because you've actually reached a point in your life where you see what's important to care about and what's not important to care about. And we do have a nothing box as well, like, you know, where we just like to zone out and block out everything and just do nothing as well. So I think we are just as capable of doing that. And it's so interesting that I think as you get older, you see life in a completely different way as you did in your 20s, in your 30s. You know, I think once you get into your sort of mid 40s, you actually see things, you know, in a very different way.
Yeah. George Abrils says the etiquette thing, it's not to show others you have respect for them, it's to show you have respect for yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's when you dig into it psychologically. What's the psychological reason we do anything? I use etiquette because I think I'm a decent, nice guy.
Sure.
And I use that for other people's sake.
Mm-hmm.
If there were no other people around, I wouldn't perform etiquette. It's not like, self, here is my seat. Let me pull out the chair for myself. Let me put a napkin on my lap and let me extend a pinky while I drink my tea. You know, whatever etiquette is. I'm making fun of it there. But I think etiquette is for other people. We do that because we respect ourselves. Yeah, to a certain extent.
Manners maketh the man, you know, and a woman.
That's right.
Manners
That's right.
maketh the man a woman.
But
Right.
do we operate with manners if there weren't other people around? If there was nobody to express etiquette for, we probably wouldn't do it. We may have certain routines we follow and things that we do that make things easier. Self-respect. I like to wash my hands. Or self-respect. I like to eat off of clean plates. Yeah. Would I clean my plate for myself? Yeah, sure I would. But are those etiquette? Etiquette is the things that we do to express things to other people.
I got a question for Scotty and the professor, because when I took up when he said you couldn't make a hoe into a housewife, I said, well, you can't make a man whore into a husband. Then the next word I saw in the comment was simp. If you are polite to a woman or defend a woman, you know, because a lot of times I think it is Wendy feels like it's 1 against 3, because there's 3 male egos, and perspective here, you know. And if somebody stands up for her, the next thing you know, I don't know if it's directed towards me, and I don't care if it was, because you know I'm very secure in my masculinity. But you know, but if you defend a woman's honor or whatever, they say, oh, you're simping for that woman or whatever. Wendy's my friend, same as Scotty and the professor is my friend. And if somebody goes after them, I'm going to defend them just as quick.
Sure.
but like I said, but anymore, if a man defends like the female's perspective of something, you get accused of being a simp. But it comes back to being genteel and manners.
Are you talking when you say simp? You're talking where they talk about a guy being pussy whipped or something like that.
Yeah, and and that was brought up at KB one morning. Said I was whipped, and Wendy was quick to defend me and said Michael is far from whipped. I'm 6'3", 200 pounds of don't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? Like I said.
Plus, my whip was actually in the box at the time, so it wasn't out to play.
And like she said, I'm a man without a mask. I do that because I seen that when she posted that up. I said, "Oh, she's got my mask, whatever, V for Vendetta, whatever." And if anybody really knew Wendy, knows Wendy don't like masks. She has like a phobia mask. She don't like that. And I'm like, no. So, but I seen that pop up, and I was trying to like scroll back down. That's when I actually hit the wrong button because my mouse is working rather well this morning. And I was going to ask the professor, but people, and then when I say this, it's not directed towards anybody, but they use terminology because their ego, as a man has got hurt. Oh, he is nice to that woman. He must want something from her. Or, and a lot of times it just is. I was raised by very strong, independent women. And I'm thankful for it. And like I said, I had 2 commanders that was female, and I would have followed them anywhere. Being female with the women's parts, I looked at the uniform and the rank. I didn't look at her as a pair of boobs or her reproductive work. That was
not if I cared about her. The only time I ever looked at women in those respects, like what can I get out of that woman? Can I get that woman into bed? Could I have sex with that woman? Wow, she has great rack, nice ass, long legs. Those are not things that are under the category of I want to care for this person.
No,
those are the superfluous, superficial things that we all do. Men and women do.
I
Maybe
actually
men
think that
more guilty of it than women, but
there are women that will take advantage of a good man, and they will, if he is kind and or walk over whatever. There are women out there that will take advantage of them, and I've seen them derate, bring a guy down in public and talk to him terribly, and I've seen it many times, and it disgusts me as a woman because at the end of the day, as a human being, you should never do that to another human being. But I think that so many men, and this is what I'm trying to talk about, so many men have a mask on. The ego and the id are two very different things, and the ego, a lot of that time is a mask, a security or whatever mask they like to put on, and that's why I'm saying, and I think men are also brought up as well to be a certain way, or at least maybe our further generation was, men had to be a certain way, had to act a certain way, he had to provide and all this, that and the other. There's very different roles now in men. And the same with women. We were brought up in my generation, God, that makes me sound old, like, you got married, you had, as my boy, to, have kids and Labrador and all that kind of stuff. And it's changed. So, but I do think women do take advantage, and it's really, really sad. Look at the size of my boy. Look at him. He's so gorgeous.
We don't have Labradors. We have pits. Look at the head on that dog.
But do you not agree, though, Professor, that a lot of people with the old ego in the eye, there is that mask, isn't there? There is that mask of like, you can't see the true me because that makes me very vulnerable. It also makes me very, maybe I'm easy to walk over. People protect themselves a lot.
Yes, and I think there's a reason. There are a lot of reasons for that. A lot of it is the persuasion that's gone into creating those ideas. I was talking earlier about one of the things I think is a cause for a lot of what we're seeing in our current society is feminism. And when feminism started looking at equality instead of equity, and then it metastasized into women can do anything men can do, that also what came along with that was the demasculation of men. Men need to be more sensitive, more in touch with their feminine side, and men need to be this. So there was a mask created that men were told they had to adopt because women required it in order for men to get the women in bed, just at a very simplistic level. So what we're seeing now, and I mentioned this earlier, there's a few studies where the testosterone levels in men have dropped 30 or 40% over the last few decades. And it's like, that's not a good thing for men or women.
No,
Women
not
need
at all.
men that are this whole concept of toxic masculinity there is aspects in the extreme of that, but making masculinity toxic in general is going to destroy masculinity, period. And that's not the way that we work. So I come down to these things that, for me, and this applies whether you're feminine or masculine. How you do anything is how you do everything. So, Scotty, you were talking earlier about what's that?
I said there's truth to that.
And well, I'm relating it to what you were saying earlier about, having clean dishes and do you place the silverware and stuff out and whatever. If I have company, which I rarely do, and that's by design, I treat them to the same clean house that I keep for myself.
Yeah.
I treat them to the same. I might go a little extra on, the accoutrements and libations and so forth than I would normally do for myself, because that's a nice thing that I would also do for myself in a celebration of having company or having interaction with someone. The other thing is that if you tell the truth, you don't have to ever worry about lying or getting the story straight.
This is true.
So telling the truth, or always being in truth, you don't have to worry about what story you told. Right?
I just wanted to pick up on a comment that Elvis has written. He says, too much men simping, they're getting soft. I talk about men wearing masks. Elvis, we have no idea who Elvis is. No one. He's a picture, and it's name. And who is the man behind the mask that he puts up? And I mean this sincerely, with all due respect. People come on a show, they have a different persona, they don't put themselves real out there, they hide behind a name or something else. So it's like, who are you, Elvis? You're saying too many men are simping, right? They're getting soft. Well, you're a guy, and yet you're hiding behind Elvis. Who are you really? What's your story? Because everybody has a story. Everybody's got their own mask in one way or the other. But I don't think men simp, and if they are more sensitive like that, I don't think anyone should get walked over, whether it's a man or a woman, for being too sensitive. And I think that sadly guys have a rough deal because they are taught to be this strong protector and take care of everything. They still are.
But Wendy, that's part of the problem that I was talking about, and the guy in the video talked about. We're getting two different messages as men.
Exactly.
We're being told by the women that we desire that we need to be softer. We need to talk to them. We need to listen to them. We need to do all those things that we need to invite them into our nothing box. Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, that's just not going to happen for the majority of men. On the other side, we're being told that traditionally masculinity and the male role is to have these characteristics, these responsibilities, these activities, which are essential to civilization and the survival thereof. So it's two different messages that causes a disconnect and a whole bunch of chaos in our nothing box that we didn't want in there. We know that and women have been told a whole different set of bullshit with, all of these women magazines about, the cosmetics. And, I think it was Chris Rock or Chappelle as well said, women say, accept us who we are. And it's like, well, first of all, you're not that tall. Your boobs aren't that big. Your face is not that color. Your hair's not that color, because all of it's been altered. And it's all been altered because women have been told that it needs to be altered in order to attract men. Well, that's a whole nother set of psychological bullshit that is being put on women. So now you have two biological entities that are given a whole bunch of conflicting messages and constructs and thrown emotion at them to fuel them, and you wonder why nobody can get along.
Just put us on. You know, if there's no conflict, there's no
I
need.
can honestly say my hair might be my hair might not be true blonde, but my breasts are real white.
Yes, they are. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well, that goes back to that
Down
question. It goes back to that age-old question: to the drapes in the carpet match, right?
What carpet? What carpet?
See, I like a strong man who's sensitive, because you know what? He doesn't have, you know, even if he just shows his sensitive side to one person, should be the one person that really matters. Because, you know, a man can be strong and that's incredibly sexy, but also being sensitive is incredibly sexy. And if he shows it, like using Scotty, for example, if Scotty's a strong man, but Rainey sees a sensitive side, that's wonderful, because that's you know, I love a strong man.
I'm all sensitive.
Yeah,
you are.
I always told my guys, if you're gonna be an asshole, be her asshole. You know, and it's like,
yeah.
And if you're gonna have two dogs, give them a place to run and play. Yeah.
Well, Professor, I might see you tonight. Then I might.
You gonna be on Wicked Women? Comb your hair, brush your teeth, polish your glasses.
I will be there if I can be. My family is all gone right now, which is boding for a busy afternoon when they get back.
Hubster, you mean I might have you to myself just for a little while this evening?
Yes, I'll give you a call.
That's cool. And hopefully Tuesday, fingers crossed, we will finally be back. We need a promo.
Be back with Robertson on Tuesday.
Yes, on Tuesday.
Yes.
And I'm so excited about that. No matter where I am, you know, I will make it happen. And, you know, if you can make it tonight, Professor, then that would be amazing.
I will see if I can do it.
And I promise not to take you out. I promise not to take you out.
Take me out.
Yeah.
With the button.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm used to that shit.
I love that picture. It's such a great picture. I look at Scotty. Doesn't he look so majestic in that picture?
Oh, yes. Yes, he does.
It's like, look at me. Look at my sword. Look at my sword.
This is my sword.
Off with her head. Off with her head.
Wait, Scotty isn't a rakish rogue and philanderer? A sensitive side?
He's a good man.
That's right. That's right, Jason. My rakish rogue philandering days are gone. I don't think I was ever a philanderer.
You're still a
but
scoundrel.
I was a rakish rogue.
Still a scoundrel.
I know you kid, Jason. So, Jason, by the way, is launching his hat making company. Much like Penman hats that I've always promoted, Jason is making his fedoras now. And so pretty soon, I think you're going to see some new logos for him and some new stuff coming out from him. So he's getting pretty good at it. So there's that as well. So, folks, guess what? We're going to wrap this up. We are 49 minutes past our normal ending time. Of course, my family's not here, so I wasn't pressured to be off at 11 o'clock.
We love you, Scotty.
I love me too. Thank you. And I love you, Wendy. And I only say that in jest. When I say I love me, it's because I have self-respect. I know who I am. I know what I want. And I don't always get what I want, but I know what I want, and I try to make it happen. So, and I'm opinionated, and I'm an asshole. Asshole. ASSHOLE to quote Dennis Leary.
Yep.
So,
we lost Uncle John as well. Like Uncle John has disappeared from the.
I think he's got parental duties going
from the
on
house.
there.
So, but it's nice to see you boys, and thank you for spending a bit of my Sunday evening. I must go and get myself ready now. I have. So I'm ready for tonight.
To put on the mask for the wicked.
Mm-hmm. You
That's
know
right.
it.
Right.
Although, having said that, Michael's seen beyond my mask with all the makeup and everything. And he's like, "You don't look any different." I'm like, "Shut up! I do."
You look just the same.
You do, and I've actually told her I prefer that Wendy to the one everybody sees on camera, and I've told her that.
Different
stuff.
I don't.
Yeah,
you look just as beautiful without your makeup.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you.
And that's what I told her, and she told me oh, no. I was like, yeah.
Oh, no.
I'll pay the money later on. Don't worry. I'll send you the
Yeah,
money
there it
over
is.
later. Thank you. But yes,
Hey.
I look forward to seeing you all tonight, and if not Tuesday evening for sure for Robertson. Fingers
That's
crossed
right.
that we can
That's it.
actually get our asses into gear.
Yes. All right, everybody. Wendy, everybody who can, be there at 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Mountain, 2 p.m. Pacific time, and 10 p.m. Great Britain time for
Okay.
Wicked Women. That's today, and that's only 4 hours from now. So
Yes.
Wendy's going to go get prepped for that. So, Wendy, so glad you're here today. Love you as always. Throw you a kiss. And
Later.
I'll see you a little later. And
Yeah.
Michael,
darling.
good to have you here.
Bye.
See you later, brother.
Yeah.
And Dr. Bauer, I keep elevating you from professor to doctor, but good to have you here again today. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you, my friend.
All right. And everybody, this is it. We got to get out of here. I want to thank you all for being here. Thanks for being part of this show today. And that's all I got. We'll see you tomorrow night for Intrepid Radio at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. In the meantime, live long and prosper.